Hello and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, October 19, 2015. Mr. Clerk, would you do the honors in leading us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so tonight's meeting, 6:30, organized pledge read mail, 6:35 updates, Castle in the Trees Playground, Alumni Field, Capital Improvements Plan, and K Property Grimes Lane. At 7:05, input, public and members. 7:10, November 2nd, 2015, special town meeting articles. Article 8, Nagog Hill orchard leases, and Article 11, stormwater bylaw regulations. 7:30, a public hearing for all alcoholic restaurant license for Japman Inc., a restaurant coming into the Point. And 7:45, town administrator, assistant town administrator, highway, plowing, sanding, private ways, annual petition and policy. Highway, Nagog Hill reconfiguration, Newtown Road intersection. C, staffing vacancy, highway laborer. D, highway solid waste hauling, Waste Management, Inc. 8:15 is other business, minutes approval. 8:35 is executive session. We have two executive sessions. One with respect to tax title properties, and the other is a non-contract strategy negotiation for the fire chief. Mr. Bergman.
Mr. Chairman, just a few items in the mail packet. One is a notice from the Massachusetts Municipal Association about its annual meeting, which is coming up in January, and it's a two-day conference, and if any members are interested in attending, please let us know, and we will get you registered for that conference. Bonnie and I will be there, and any other members that want to come on along. Next, we have a report that has been submitted by the town treasurer to the Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Light and Water Commissioners with an update on OPEB valuation report. This is the other post-employment benefits report. It would be well to have a further meeting, a joint meeting at some point with the Finance Committee to discuss, but I wanted to put it in your mail packet at least. I don't know if Steve has the highlight to hit on the OPEB report. It looked like we have favorable rates that are putting us in a better condition than we might otherwise be.
Yeah, the discount rate went up a full percentage point, which was great news for us, so it increased the liability. Moving forward, the accrued liability, pretty significant. So there's a lot to talk about in those numbers. We should definitely have a meeting with FinCom.
Yeah, don't we have I know we got the big budget
Saturday.
symposium Saturday. Isn't there another one prior to that for the Finance Committee? No?
No, that's that Saturday in November is it.
Would it be, when we have everybody there, why not have a discussion about OPEB? Steve, you okay with that? I think that would work.
Great.
Thank you.
One on goes side to
Go
that.
ahead.
You're meeting with the assessors prior to the tax classification meeting?
Yes.
Have I missed that? They sent on the
No.
schedule?
No, I think we asked about availability, and I'm not sure if we ever heard back about it, but we now have more time. We're pushing thanks to DOR's schedule as much as ours. We're looking at now early December for the tax rate classification hearing, so we'll have some more time during the month of November to get together with the assessors and.
I'll be circulating the email we can send out before, looking for availability dates and
Yeah.
refresh it.
So we'll look to do that during the month of November. Next, we have in writing a schedule on the Council on Aging kitchen project update, which is included in the packet. We have a request from the fire chief just to put it on your radar screen, for reallocation of a surplus police cruiser vehicle for the fire department. Just by way of background, that Bonnie and the departments just went through the process of identifying which vehicles and equipment that we could declare surplus and put out to auction. And that list is also attached, and we circulated the list among town departments. If anyone was interested in a piece of equipment that another department had, they were to so indicate. I think the fire department had expressed interest in this police vehicle. The school department had expressed interest in
And
it.
the trailer.
In a trailer
For the fire department.
from the fire department. So it's sort of a two-step process right now. Step one is the list of things that go out to auction. And if someone said, essentially put a hold on it, we're not going to include it in the auction, but we do want to schedule some time at an appropriate point to discuss whether the department that wants it gets to have it. Because there is if you're increasing the number of fleet vehicles that are active, that's sort of a policy decision, and that's something that we can be reviewing again on that Saturday meeting when you're looking at all of the vehicles and all the fleets. So just so you are aware of the request, but we can make a policy decision on it in November. Last item I'll mention, which we got by email today, we have a invitation from Jeff O'Neill at Condyne, which is the owner of, among others, properties, 3 Distribution Center Circle, inviting us, town officials, to tour the Potpourri Group facility sometime in the next 3 weeks. And if we can figure out when a convenient time to do that is, we can, they'd be happy to take us through. And
So we got 2 things on the calendar coming up. One is Castle in the Trees check presentation on the 26th, I believe. And on the 30th, which is a Monday, then the 30th on a Friday, we have the walk for the orchard. So
at 4:30
I
that
know
day.
most of us are going to go to the walk in the orchard.
Yep, the 30th.
Earlier
How about you, Mr. Abella?
I just don't know yet because 4:30 is still early in the day.
Okay.
They did that accommodation, but
I'm taking both days off from work.
Yeah,
good.
so maybe it could be later in the afternoon on a week from today.
Whenever you're available. Those 2 days work
Yeah.
for me.
A week from today.
Week from today?
Or Friday. the
Friday I will
30th?
be, but not the Monday.
go afterward.
30? Yeah.
All right, so,
Chuck, you okay with that, Chuck?
A week from Friday works for me, I'm not sure.
yeah, Friday, October 30,
30 it is, I'd say. Mr.
Right.
Mr. Knox isn't here, I guess.
Friday, 4:30.
Majority rules.
Not Friday.
Okay. All right, so
Yeah, then we'll meet with us.
So we'll do that.
I'll get back
and
to
I think that'll be
Jeff O'Neill
interesting.
about
What
that.
time
Great.
we're doing the walk, what time?
The walk is
4:30.
4:30, yeah,
All right.
Friday the
Then
30th.
We're planning on going to Potpourri.
Prior.
prior to
All right,
that.
good.
We're gonna see it by
There's a football
daylight.
game that night, then.
You want to see it by daylight anyway. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Don't want to miss the game.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Okay.
450,000 square feet's a lot of building to see.
Get my steps in that day.
Castle in the Trees, we have a Castle in the Trees update on the conception plan and expanded footprint.
So, I'm Sarah Donovan. I'm the president of Littleton Children's Fund, which is a nonprofit that helped build the original playground back in 1991 and has maintained the playground. And we are in the process of raising funds to rebuild the playground. And if you look on the left side of the screen, you can see a little blue dotted line that kind of cuts through the swings. That's the existing fence. And what we're asking is to push the fence out to that solid black line. We could get another swing in there and also a tire swing. And if we move the tire swing there, then straight in the back of the playground in the center, we could add another climbing tower. It really would only extend the playground out by about 30 feet or so. And there's nothing there right now, it's all overgrown, and so we're just asking for permission from the selectmen to extend the playground into that small area.
And didn't the code change on the amount of swings and the square footage too, so you have to...
Yes, there's
Expand
fall
that too.
zones, and that's
Yeah.
why we're limited to how many swings we can have, and,
So this would definitely help
yes,
to have the same number of swings at the playground.
right.
The property's under the care, custody, and control of the Park and Recreation Commission, and Alicia Day is here to report that they unanimously voted to approve this plan at a special meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. So, great.
So, you voted tonight?
Yep.
Oh, great.
So you're supporting that
Yep.
it's the approval is from Park and Rec, but I was telling Sarah just before the meeting that as there are further iterations in the project, it's always good to keep the Board of Selectmen involved and up to date, because at some point there'll be additional funding requests coming forward. We've got the big check presentation ceremony next Monday at 2 p.m.
2 p.m.
And that's the state funds, the $100,000 that was in the FY 2016 state budget. Total project cost?
It's about $300,000.
Okay.
And we have raised, including an in-kind gift, so Cataldo Landscaping is going to demo the current playground when we are ready to replace it. It's staying until we're ready, hopefully next September. But Cataldo is going to demo the old playground and ready the site for the new playground. And we're estimating that's a $75,000 in-kind donation, so.
Great.
Fantastic. Board members, questions?
Just one super quick one. And so would that Cataldo estimate include the new square footage as well? I was just looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And do you have a feeling for increasing cost at all? Just curious. Not really concerned.
I think the swings will be minimal. We really don't know what the increased cost of adding the tower will be, but we just plan to increase our budget to include that.
I mean, no conscom is good with it. I saw that. Park and
Yes,
Rec
it
support.
doesn't, it's nowhere, I have a letter, should be
Yep.
hopefully in your packet.
Yep.
It's well within the buffer zone, so it's not an issue with conscom.
Fantastic. Gentlemen? Good. That being said, I'd look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to support the determination by the Park and Recreation Commission to expand the footprint for the proposed reconstruction of the Castle in the Trees playground on town-owned property under the care, custody, and control of the Park and Recreation Commission at 300 King Street, U 19320.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much.
very much.
Look-
I just want to reiterate, thank you very much to Selectmen for being supportive of the $100,000 that we got from the state for this playground, and there will be a check presentation ceremony and a little celebration to celebrate Eden's Playground's second birthday, and that is next Monday, October 26th, from 2 to 3 p.m. at the playground, and all are welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is alumni field planning and renovations. I see Mr. Lynn, Mr. Hunt, and some students here. So why don't you guys come on up? I'll get the students later, but you guys come on up, and let's see what you're thinking. And there's also part of this is a, yeah, go ahead, you can sit down if you want. Also, part of this is an in-kind donation by a town resident for some work that Sean is going to be doing for the town. So we're here to listen to Kevin and Mike in regards to what alumni field conditions are like, and then I want to hear from some of the student athletes that are present also, and then we'll turn it over and we'll talk about Sean. Mr. Lynn.
Hey, thanks for allowing us to come tonight and talk with you. Current challenges we have hasn't really changed since last year when we went down this road of looking at renovating Alumni Field and other fields in town. Our fields are currently unable to support the amount of use that is currently demanded by high school and youth teams. All fields, just about all fields in town, are shared properties. It's something somewhat unique to Littleton. A lot of towns don't do that. Fields are in a constant state of degradation. Limited amount of field space with very high demand for fields, and development of new active recreation areas costly may take away open space if we're looking at other properties to develop fields, which I would also be in favor of, but I'm not sure we're there yet. Here's an aerial shot of Alumni Field. This is done by...
That was in October of last year, and the field since then, with another season of football currently underway. Last year's lacrosse season is that actually doesn't do justice to the conditions at this time.
All right.
That's about a year old at this point.
So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is the slide on the left. Those trenches line either side of Alumni Field. If you can see the blue line, that is the soccer line. This is where, with football, you can see the white line right here, but the blue line is what the soccer line sideline is, and it's also where girls lacrosse sideline would be. You can see the runoff on the field there into the trench right along the sideline. Matter of fact, one of the athletes that's missing tonight is girls soccer because we're currently playing right now at Alumni Field. I'll be headed as soon as we're done here. If you were to come to that game, you could see kids doing throw-ins across the trench, running across the trench. You could see them running off the field, chasing the ball into the trench. It's not a good situation. The field was built for football about probably 50 years ago. It was not built for other sports. And it's very hard to play other sports at it, and from a professional standpoint, I don't think we can safely play other sports. The slide on the right, that is the condition of much of the turf on Alumni Field. That is not grass. That is some sort of a weed that has taken over the field. It's very coarse, it's abrasive, and it's basically everywhere down there.
And if I can add just one thing that Mike had stated, the field was originally constructed as a football field, and currently the demand on that field is no longer that it is just a football field. We demand a lot more out of it, and I think the high school athletics and the youth athletics are using it for that, to get that use out of it. But it just isn't really designed for soccer, lacrosse, any of the rolling ball sports, especially field hockey. Anything else we try to put on it, it really isn't designed for that, and it's unsafe. And clearly, with the out of bounds being so close to these trenches.
In that particular trench there, when you play the sports like soccer and lacrosse, where both team benches are on the same sideline, we actually have the team benches where the kids are standing. It's in that rock bed. So, like when we have another school arrive to play soccer or girls lacrosse, the kids are walking in that rock bed. That is their sideline right there. Honestly, as an athletic administrator, I'm honestly embarrassed when I have other teams show up at our field, because I don't know one other school that has a playing situation like that at the varsity level for the sports I've mentioned. And, okay, next slide. What I'm trying to demonstrate here, that's actually me standing on the other side of the field. I had my wife take a picture from the quote-unquote home sideline of football, trying to demonstrate the grade that you're looking up in the crown of that field, which is substantial to say the least. I do have a couple football players here we'll talk about, and soccer kids who will talk about what it's like to actually feel like you're running down a hill or up a hill on the field. Fields today are pretty much, to the naked eye, flat. They play better flat, they're faster, and better for sports in general. The slide on the right, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is the limited space that we have for cheerleading. You have steel poles with concrete internally in them, and the bleacher right there. In the cheerleaders, we actually have to rope off a section, so then we block the route of egress for spectators, because we have to have a place for the girls to cheer. It's hard-packed ground, it's not level, and it's not adequate, and it's not safe. If you know much about cheerleading today, there's aerials, there's lifts, and they're limited to what they can do because they don't want to go into the bleachers or the poles. The slide on the left is just a snapshot of the underneath of the bleachers. Not sure of the exact age of the bleachers. We would speculate 40.
1968.
You know that?
Pretty sure of it.
Pretty sure of it. So Ted thinks it's 1968. But the bleachers underneath definitely are, there's some issues there. I'm not a structural engineer. I'm not going to speculate to what level, but I think that the picture shows you where that's at. On the right, that is the press box. It's T111 siding. It's in rough shape up there. For me to set up for a game, I have to physically bring up a PA system, get on the roof of the building, and actually hoist the speakers up onto the top of it. I don't really like doing it. I know that a lot of my colleagues open a door to their press box and flick a switch and they have sound at their facility. Ours is literally falling apart, and that's one of the back walls of the press box. Trying to demonstrate on the left, those 3 porta potties are the facilities for that field. We do not have a high school on site. Russell Street School isn't particularly interested in having high school student athletes in their building, nor is the middle school. For home football games, we do bring the visiting team into the middle school to use the bathrooms when they first arrive, but after that, it's those 3 porta potties. Just using football as an example, we have 53 players on our team, 22 cheerleaders, that's 75 kids. Some nights we have as many as 1,000 spectators. The other teams, if they have another 75 kids arriving, football and cheerleading, we have 50-plus kids in our band. 3 porta potties. It costs us money every month. People don't like them, and it really isn't adequate facilities for, varsity and JV level competition to not have running water. Well, we have running water. It's a hose off the back of the concession building. On the right is obviously the fence and the sidewalk just outside of the field. Obviously, the pictures speak for itself. That's not really a aesthetically pleasing just outside of the field.
And on that note, too, that granite, if you've been down there, that granite, that sidewalk is about the same height as the paving, the road to the right that you're looking at. The granite actually is a trip step more than anything. It sticks up on both sides. It's maybe 2 inches above the asphalt on both sides. It kind of runs the length. You can see the water actually puddles in there after rain because it doesn't flow out. It gets trapped in by the granite. So it's in tough shape.
Okay, now we're moving on to Littleton High School. We have other issues. This is a field that currently we're playing JV soccer on. You can see the aerial of it, but what does the more damage to it is boys lacrosse. We play girls lacrosse at Alumni, boys lacrosse up here in the spring. Boys lacrosse, I love the sport. I was the athletic director who put it into Littleton High School's offerings of sports. It's a great sport, but it is very hard on fields. Boys lacrosse and football are the 2 hardest sports on fields. This is a picture of our kids playing lacrosse. That is every day. That is not a dramatic picture. That is every day we have kids digging ground balls out of the dirt, and then they shake it out of the stick because there is literally that much dirt being on every play that's on those surfaces.
Unfortunately, there's no goal after they shake the stick out.
That's what it looked like from the goal mouth. These are the areas that take the most abuse on the lacrosse field, the 2 goal mouths and the face-off circle. This is a picture on June 2nd. We had a MIA home tournament game, and when you get into June, it gets real tricky. There's not a lot of room to say, let's play tomorrow or in 2 days. It's got to get played between all the school events. You have to stay on schedule with the MIA tournament. We had events surrounding this game, as did Oakmont, our opponent. So this was our field that morning. I obviously could not play at home. And this was Oakmont's field that afternoon, which we did play on. This field does happen to be synthetic turf, but we ended up giving away an MIA home tournament game that day to a school that had a playable surface that day because this game had to get played that day. A little bit, again, I think that's a pretty dramatic images there of what our situation was and what Oakmont's situation was on that particular day. These slides, again, I named them We Are Littleton. I just think that there's a lot of things to be proud of in Littleton right now, surrounding our schools certainly, which have had all kinds of merits recently. Our athletic programs are to the same level right now, and it's a delicate balance. I've been at Littleton now for 15 years. I've been the head football coach for 14. I've been the athletic director for 10. I can tell you the football journey for me over 14 years, I probably wouldn't want to relive the early years. Jim was a coach with me actually during those years. But these years that we've been having lately, I'd go through again at any time. Same thing as an athletic director. 10 years ago, our programs weren't to this level. So, we should really treasure and value what we're doing here. We have the most important stat 68% of our students at Littleton High School played at least one sport last year. That's tremendous. We were lucky to hit 50% 10 years ago. Now, because we've added lacrosse, indoor track, boys and girls tennis, cross country, we've added all these sports over the years, our participation rate is among the highest in the state. 25 total sport offerings at LHS. 4 of those are cooperatives, boys and girls swimming and girls ice hockey and gymnastics. But we have a slight technical issue here.
Technical? Oh, it says I've been logged out, so.
Thank you.
No, I didn't pay my bill.
We have 21 varsity teams at Littleton High School. Again, we're very proud of that. Schools our size, other athletic directors will always ask me, how do you do it at Littleton High School? How can you possibly have boys and girls lacrosse? How can you possibly have 70 kids on your indoor track team and 113 on your outdoor track teams? It's because of that first bowl at 68%. That's our participation rate. We get so many kids. It's a sign of a healthy school. So many kids involved with athletics and the arts. 19 of our 21 varsity teams last year qualified for the MIA tournament during last school year. 6 of our varsity teams won the elite championship, and 5 of our varsity teams completed undefeated seasons. Again, those bullets, those will come. That kind of success will come and go. We can't say that's going to happen every year, nor should it be the focus of what we do. The first bullet is the focus of what we do, which is participation, is number 1. On the youth side, youth football and cheer, 250 athletes, youth boys and girls soccer, 500 kids in the fall, 500 in the spring. Boys and girls lacrosse, 250 athletes, and I did not have the youth baseball and softball, but that's also a large number. Not quite so impacted by what we're talking about tonight. Just a couple more bullets. In the 15 years, last 15 years, we've built a new high school, a new middle school. Thank you very much for that, Town of Littleton. Russell Street School renovation, Littleton Police Department. From my perspective, we have missed opportunities to renovate existing athletic facilities as part of major construction projects. I go to other schools. I interface with all my colleagues. We go to places. I ask them, when you got the field, it was part of the new high school. It was part of another renovation. They do these things as part of these projects. We didn't do it in Littleton. We built a new high school, but did not build the stadium, did not build a track up there. Then when we built the new middle school, we did not fold those projects into those jobs either. Same thing with Russell Street School. As a result, we do not really have what you would consider a feature outdoor athletic facility to match the buildings that we have constructed in Littleton, which are tremendous, and they're a great source of pride for the town. I think over at that Russell Street middle school property, that space in between the 2 buildings takes away from the 2 buildings. That's where I'm at with what I wanted to say tonight. It really was just framing the issues. It's probably a lot of it is just a rehash of things that were brought to the table last year. Not really proposing a solution tonight, although we do have an individual with us that we'd like to introduce. We'll get there in just a minute. I did bring some student athletes so that, because these are my customers, and I think that, and I talked to Jim before the meeting, I said, would it be okay? And Jim's answer was absolutely. We want to hear from kids, we want to hear their perspective. So we do have some athletes here. We have Eric Rocker. Just raise your hand maybe, Eric. He's a football and lacrosse perspective. We have Kristen Rebello, cheerleader. Hayden Gray, boys soccer. Lily Watson, field hockey and lacrosse. And Joe DeCoste, football and baseball. And the only sport not represented by what alumni field or the high school issues would be girls soccer. I already mentioned they're all playing right now, so I couldn't have a girls soccer athlete here.
2 things first. First, I want to thank you for stepping up and to bring this back, renovations back to light. Secondly, I was not the cause why he was unhappy during the beginning of his football career.
That's open for debate.
No.
The kids might have something to do with that.
Well, you know, that's always a factor.
We were a work in progress. We had a lot,
absolutely.
and hey,
Absolutely.
paid dividends.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's a, we have an opportunity here to get something in kind, but I also want to talk to, or at least have the student athletes heard, so folks know that, this is real, it's impacting our kids, your kids, and the athletes of this town. As Mike said earlier, there's a lot to be proud about this town, and the school system is one of many things, along with all the athletes that play interscholastic sports. And it's been awesome to see the success the past 5-6 years also. So, Mike, I'll let you call on your athletes and just, all I'd like your name, your grade, and your sport, and give us a little history of what you think about Alumni Field.
Yep. Or it could be the high school field that we also showed.
Or the high school field,
So,
absolutely.
I think we'll start with Eric. He could probably give us just his perspective on some things. Eric Rocker.
Eric Rocker. I'm a junior, and I'm the boys varsity lacrosse goalie, which is a tough position at our field because every time someone runs across the crease, there's a bunch of dust in the air, and I'm getting 80-mile-an-hour rubber balls thrown at me as hard as someone can. And I can't see anything. There's rocks in my eyes, and I had contacts that have been falling out during the game, had to stop the game and go get new contacts. So it makes it difficult to play at our field because there's so much dust everywhere. It's horrible.
Okay, we're going to go Kristen here. She's going to talk about cheerleading a little bit, the area that I showed on the slide.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm the captain of the cheer team, and I'm also a senior. And we have 22 girls on the team, which is a lot. And as you saw in one of the pictures, we cheer in dirt. And we're all on top of each other, and a bigger space would be more beneficial. And not only do we cheer and dance on the field, but we also stunt. And with those conditions, it's really hard, and I think a flatter surface would be more beneficial.
Hayden Gray, I'm going to let Hayden, whatever he's going to say about boys soccer, trust me, if there was a girl here, she'd say the same thing. We're talking about alumni here for soccer. The soccer playing situation up at the high school is actually quite good, but this is just alumni we're dealing with.
I'm Hayden Gray. I'm captain of the varsity soccer team and played at the field a lot. And the worst part is probably when someone sends a ball down the wing and then all of a sudden the ball just rolls off the field because the ball's at an angle and now the play is dead and it's the other team's ball and just completely changed the game. And also, if you get another ball down the wing and you have to take off outside around a defender, sometimes you step out of bounds, and when you step out of bounds, you're already in that trench and there's full of rocks, and it's really easy to roll an ankle or even just stop running hard to get to the ball. And then also, we do throw-ins, we're standing in the trenches, and it's kind of hard to throw upfield, it's kind of hard to get our footing, it's kind of hard to make a good play on those fields. So I just feel as if flatter field is better for soccer playing.
Okay, Lily Watson, field hockey and girls lacrosse perspectives.
I'm Lily, I'm a sophomore. I play field hockey and lacrosse. And for field hockey, playing on the grass, it's really difficult because you never, instead of focusing on your skill, you never know where the ball's going to bounce. And where I play club, everything's done on turf, and it's a totally different game to watch and play. I'm currently in the process of wanting to play in college, and my club coach told me that no college coaches would come watch me play on grass. And same thing for lacrosse on the alumni field. You feel like you're going up or down the field, and we're playing in dirt and rocks. So, yeah.
Great job. Only a sophomore. That takes a lot of guts. She came down here tonight. All right. And then the last person is Joe DeCoste, football perspective.
You have to recuse yourself.
Joey
Town
DeCoste.
council?
I'm a captain of the football team. I'm a senior. Playing on the field that we have now is pretty tough. With the slope we have, you can feel it when you're running the ball. Mostly when you're coming across the field. When you have to run uphill, sometimes you catch a toe or something, catch a cleat, and you just fall, and that's down. So that is a complete game changer. And you can feel it. You fall over forward sometimes running downhill. And there's a bunch of divots and stuff, and we've all twisted ankles. And after every game, coach asks if any of us are hurt, but we all have a twisted ankle or something, but we're all afraid to say something, so. And with the gullies in the side of the field, I've been tackled and made tackles into those gullies, and you get cuts all over your sides and arms and stuff, and it is not fun. I probably have scars on parts of my body from it right now.
Somebody's not happy about it.
Okay, so really what Kevin and I and the student athletes' purpose tonight was to reframe the issues, bring it back to the attention of stakeholders and decision makers in the town. We also have an individual here to our left who, Sean Reardon, I'm just going to give you, he's the vice president at Tetra Tech, an international engineering firm with over 13,000 employees and 150 offices worldwide. He's a licensed professional civil engineer since 1999, and he specializes in complex land development, permitting, and design. I'll let him talk a little bit more about what he does, but Sean would like to, we're only framing the problem. This is the guy that I think that can provide solutions to people, and he's willing to do it on a volunteer basis. So, Sean.
Sure. Yep, like Mike said, I'm Sean Reardon. I'm Vice President at Tetra Tech. We're a local firm that started about 30 years ago, got bought out by a major national firm. Now we're a member of a 13,000 person company. Included in that is several offices that just do K through 12 work. They've done over 500 fields like this, about 30 or 40 infield turf systems. I personally designed the first infield turf system in Massachusetts, Catholic Memorial High School, back in 1998. This field's 50 years old, Alumni Field. Catholic Memorial is already on their second turf field. So they put their first field in 1998. We just replaced it about 3 years ago. So just to give you an idea, 50 years old for an athletic facility is very old. I mean, I'm coming on 50 years old. I could use an upgrade. So it's just hard to imagine that we've got this much life out of it. So fortunately, I have some background in these fields. It's not a terribly difficult design exercise, but it does take an understanding of what people's needs are. I got involved because my kids play lacrosse and play flag football, and they use all these fields. Lacrosse, I'll be frank, it's an embarrassment. I mean, when other teams come to the field, they don't want their kids to play because, as the goalie said, watching these kids get sprayed with dirt and sprayed with rocks every time someone takes a shot, it's kind of scary. So I'm just fortunate that I have a skill set that actually could help out in this situation. And I'd really like to do something. I've tried to figure out ways to help out, and I don't have too many other skill sets, so it's nice to come across something that I can actually provide a benefit for.
All right. Board members, any questions?
No questions, there's no comments.
Go ahead.
Like Jim said, I want to thank you guys for coming out, because I think on this issue, we still see some polarized opinions, and that's why education and getting on the same page is key. So I hope there's two parts of this, that we get on the same page that there's a problem, which I think is what we're here tonight, and then the solution comes next. This is clearly a problem. This is something we need to fix. It's not acceptable, everything that we just heard, for so many reasons. And by the way, I'm glad you guys expanded the problem a little bit to look at, the walkways around it, the cheerleader impact. When I was in high school, we had like 10 cheerleaders or something, and no improvements have been made since then. So I agree. It's really it's eye-opening, honestly. So I hope that we can all get on the same page with this is a problem. We need to do something about it. And I think that's exactly.
Mr. Ravello.
Certainly, pretty, as you almost introduced it, with the reiteration of what we went through last year as far as the conditions, and presumably only even a little bit worse at the very best from what we had last year. So certainly, we're all looking that something should be done, and we got reasonably good ideas to some of the possible solution sets that exist out there. Talking about a turf field, we're going to have to do the work to put the turf field in, and we'll be getting to a funding issue, and that's what we're going to have to work our way through. So we just have to square up to that, and as some of those solution sets that you might bring forward, obviously there's some sort of price tag associated with each, just as we looked at last time, and then see if there's any more innovative ways than we discovered last year on how we actually can fund some of these improvements. Actually, complete renovation, not just merely an improvement. So, and what I take it, Sean, you're going to, because as the motion here reads, is we'll be accepting the non-monetary gift that you're giving of your free time. What do you anticipate your deliverable will be?
A conceptual design.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. DeCoste.
I, too, would like to say thank you to all the time and effort that was put in by everybody here, and thank you to the students for coming out. To Mike's point, it is courageous of you guys to come out. Sometimes it's difficult to talk in front of people, and appreciate you guys coming out and giving us your perspectives. As far as Joseph's perspective, falling down forward, that might be genetics, but, sorry, Joe. I do have a question for Sean. You mentioned that Catholic Memorial went in 98 and placed about 3 years ago, so the useful life of that first field was probably about 15 years. That was older technology, first field that went into Massachusetts. Would you say the useful life of a turf field that goes in today is about the same? Has the technology improved a
Maybe 12
bit?
to 15. So, and think of it this way, it doesn't just fall off a cliff. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And
Degrades.
It degrades, right? And a lot of it has to do how well you take care of it, how much you use it. Like we did Mansfield High School, and I think the year after we did Mansfield High School, I don't think that field saw an hour of rest from 9 o'clock till midnight. They had minor league lacrosse teams on it, so they literally used it all the time. So you can go from situations like that to situations like their academy where, they have like 6 or 7 games on it a day or something like that. So it's hard to gauge, but the bottom line is you got to take care of it. But if you figure 12 to 15 years, you shouldn't have any problems with that before that time.
I'll say, just as a parent of some lacrosse players, it is embarrassing, and certainly the football field is very much in light right now. The games are going on down there. The soccer players are down there. Went to the pink game last week for the boys, and it's difficult to watch a game because, to Hayden's point, you have a fullback that makes a really nice pass up the wing, and the ball rolls out of bounds and it's a turnover instead of a breakaway or an offensive opportunity. With lacrosse, my son, there were situations where I didn't want him playing goal. I only wanted him playing goal on away games because putting your kid in harm's way. The opposing team, either team, is picking up rocks every time they pick up a ball, scoop up a ball, and to Eric's point, they're throwing those balls at 80 miles an hour, and there's rocks involved as well, so it's extremely dangerous. The other thing I wanted to comment on is Mike said that the numbers relative to baseball and softball aren't as impactful, but I'll say that there is some impact to the baseball and softball folks as well, because Whitcomb Field, for example, is only available to Babe Ruth baseball on the weekends after 12:30 and one evening a week, because soccer uses those fields, uses the outfield of Whitcomb Field. You can't have teenage boys playing baseball hitting into 6-year-old, 8-year-old, any year-old soccer players out in the outfield. So I think the impact is far-reaching. I appreciate you guys highlighting everything. I think it's a testament to what we're doing as a district, what you guys are doing as Mike as the athletic director, as the coaches in the system, to have the kind of participation that we do have. I'd like to see us to keep moving forward doing that. I'd love to be able to see other sports being added, but we wouldn't be able to do it with what we have right now. We need to take a look at the options we have available, and the fact that we have a resident who is generous enough and knowledgeable enough with the expertise to do this. I'm extremely excited about the opportunity to take a look at what Sean comes forward with.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, again, you've heard a lot tonight from the other board members, and I echo all the same comments. Having played on that field, having coached on that field, having...
It was a new field when you played on it.
Well, no, not so much. Not so much. It's, as Melissa pointed out, there's been no upgrades. So, it's something we're going to take a look at. But for tonight, what we're doing and what the purpose of this motion is to accept Mr. Reardon's in-kind services. So, I want to first say thank you for that. And that being said, any other comments from the board? Then I would look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to its policy on solicitation and acceptance of monetary and non-monetary gifts for public purposes to accept the donation of in-kind services by Sean Reardon of Tetra Tech Rizzo for Alumni Field turf planning.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And thanks, guys, for
Thank
coming
you.
out tonight. We really appreciate it.
Go cheer on the soccer team.
Now go home and study.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Get to work. Thank you. All right, moving on. Next agenda item, we're running a little bit late, is I had contacted the Assistant Town Administrator along with the school department to give us an update on capital equipment This town spends a lot of money on capital equipment. We do it every annual town meeting, and I think the town should know what we're spending on and what type of update. So I asked them to give us a 3 fiscal years update. I see Steve Mark. Did he leave from the schools?
You might be talking to Mike Fontanella outside.
All right. So if you want to start on the town side, Bonnie?
Sure, I'll just walk through this. There, you might, as
Come on up,
part of
Steve.
this,
Talk about some stuff.
I'm sure you might want to have follow-up with PNBC, because they have a
Okay.
large stake in the capital
Yep.
planning process. But I'll just walk through, I grouped them by pretty much function or department. In the assessor's area, we had a capital article or a one-time article for training and consultant services for $25,000. That will be completed this spring. We're in the process of doing the training and having our consultants wrap up our reval services. The next item was IT, or technology. We had a virtual servers article in 2014 at $10,000. That is also in process and will be completed in this spring 2016. Planning board, we have the master plan articles. The total is $213,000. That was appropriated over 2 town meetings in 2014 and 15. That work is in process. Bids are out and are due back on November 23rd. Public buildings, there are quite a few articles that relate to public buildings, and I'll just kind of walk through each one. High school site.
Bonnie, Steve, if you have any other updates as Bonnie's listening, please, by all means, speak up.
So high school site, there was work in progress in the amount of $27,324. I'm not sure where this work is in process with PNBC, and that's why I said you might need to schedule an update with them. Shaker Lane school site.
Just, Bonnie, hold on 1 second. Steve, that 27,324, I know we should talk to the PNBC, but do you know, is that the roof leak stuff that's going on?
So, yes, some, no, it's not.
Okay.
I think that's the fencing around.
I think it's some fencing, I think it's some painting, I think it's, I don't remember the details of that.
Okay.
I apologize off the top of my head.
It's a PNBC article.
Yeah.
So it's, but I think it involves fencing and painting. Shaker Lane school site, there was $230,000 appropriated. A lot of this is for the unit ventilators, which will be completed the summer of 2016.
Right, we did some this past summer as well, so.
Can I jump in again?
Yes, absolutely.
Steve, if I could ask you on this one. Which unit ventilators are the last ones to be done? So which ones are left? What part of the building? Is it second floor?
There's some on the second floor, and there's a couple in some used to be closets, now offices on the first floor of Shaker Lane School.
The reason I ask is because I went into the second floor during the warm months recently, and is there any option to get those units? I think I know the answer to the question. There are units available that are heating and cooling.
Yes.
Has any cost-benefit analysis been done on us doing something like that?
We have not
There's
specifically.
about a half dozen classrooms that are really bad. It's probably 3 or 4 classrooms that are really bad, but
Right. Some of the classrooms on the second floor of Shaker Lane, we put, it's called a split system, air conditioners into those classrooms. And some of the kindergarten classrooms on the first floor at Shaker Lane, we put split system air conditioning units in. We haven't looked at specifically a unit ventilator that does heating and cooling.
you still have to use
Because
the
you
same
would still
technology.
have
You
to
just
have a
split
big
unit
giant
condenser.
compressor someplace.
Something on the roof,
to-
yeah.
To service those.
I just didn't know if there was an opportunity for us, if we're doing the work, if it
Yeah,
was...
I can look at, I mean, I can certainly look at it and get back to PNBC or on what the option is.
I can tell you this, when, and I think, PJ, you were the chair of the school committee when we appropriated these funds. The money was, the 230 was to take care of all the univents that had, because we were doing like 4 a year.
Yeah.
Kept doing a 4-year. Then we made a decision when we did the building assessments, just to get them all done at once. So if you can deal with Mr. DeCosta's request, that's fine, but make sure there's enough money to get them all done, that's all.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
again, without having the details off the top of my head that PMBC has, I know some of that money specifically for Shaker Lane was also to look at, I think the EMG study had recommended replacing a couple of rooftop units as well.
Right.
So I will have to work with PMBC and work out those details. We did replace this past summer 6 unit ventilators in the classrooms at Shaker Lane. So
I'm going to put you on the spot, Steve. I just, if there's an opportunity for us to do something that's going to make the learning
again, I
environment a
think
better place.
what we're gonna find, and again, I'm not an expert, but what you're gonna find is if you put a unit ventilator that does heating and cooling, you're still gonna need to put,
Absolutely.
you're still gonna need to mount a rooftop unit compressor to service those units, and then you have piping issues and plumbing issues that are not currently existing to feed those units. But I can talk to the HVAC engineers and certainly look and see what that option is.
Thanks.
The next item was the Shattuck Street school site, Shattuck Street site, this site, which was appropriated in 2014 for $143,600. The roof section of the building was completed in 2015, and the rooftop units in this section of the building are out to bid currently. They needed to get some additional funding to finish the rooftop units, which was appropriated in 2015 below. We're anticipating that being closed out in the next few months. Council on Aging kitchen site. You might remember from a meeting or so ago, we did award a base contract in the amount of $93,900. The work is supposed to start shortly and be finished hopefully in December of this fiscal year. The tennis courts at Shattuck Street. That project has been completed and closed in September of 2015. There was $13,480 appropriated and it was used fully. In the 2015 groupings, there was high school building needs, $122,500. I know the water heater replacements have been completed.
Yes.
So.
Yep, we replaced both hot water heaters at the high school. There was $75,000 appropriated. Does that sound right? $77,000?
Yeah, I think so.
And we spent roughly 47 or 50. Someone, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. And then PMBC has also since authorized some additional related work to put in some frequency drives for that hot water system at $15,000. So that's also energy efficient project as well. So.
There were also some high school site issues that were appropriated for $30,000. I'm not sure where they are in process for that, so that would be a PMBC update. The police station, I can say that the seal coating has been completed, so I believe that project will be closed out at the end of this fiscal year. Russell Street school site, there was $6,835. I believe that was part of the paving. Or was there?
I think so, and I think PMBC has kind of reworked the funds and focused recently just on Shaker Lane. So.
Correct.
So my only concern with that is if town meeting passes it for Russell Street, to shift it around, because it has school paving needs. I don't know if that Russell Street school site is the same.
I think that this might have been for some small patchwork needed at Russell Street, but
Okay.
so it will not be spent on Shaker.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely not. There was some school paving needs funding appropriated for $142,000. I know that there was a large portion of that Shaker Lane paving done this past September. I think it might be a little bit more to go, but I can't remember if there were more paving items.
There is some more paving that needs to be done at Shaker Lane, along with some sidewalk concerns. I think that's the next phase of that PMBC project at Shaker Lane.
But there was a large portion.
The rear parking lot has been completely reclaimed and repaved. It was regraded to take care of the water drainage issues and the water drainage issues into the playground and washing that area away. That's all been burned and restructured and regraded and paved. And then the back of Shaker Lane has been regraded so that all the water now flows into one of the 2 catch basins in the back of the school. The front of the school the main parking lot was scarfed, and then it was resurfaced, and then they replaced 2 drainage pipes along the driveway. Jim Clyde can probably answer better questions about those drainage pipes.
Let's see. Then we have the Shattuck Street building needs. This is the part of the rooftop units work that is out for bid currently, and they are due on November 4th. That's the bulk of this funding. And there are some other small projects that are included. Fuel facility, that is also in process. The bid is conditionally awarded, subject to the funding that we're requesting at the November town meeting. So the vendor is willing to hold their price until we can secure some additional funding, so we're waiting on that. Then we go to the police department. This is mostly equipment, so it's fairly quickly closed out, but there were a vehicle that was refurbished in fiscal 2014 for $13,000. That's completed and closed. Police radios that were purchased in 2014 for $11,600. That was closed. When you go to fiscal 15, there were marked vehicles that were purchased for $97,378, and it has been closed. There was an unmarked vehicle for $40,000 that was purchased and closed. Vehicle maintenance and tires in the amount of $6,000, completed and closed. And the police radio maintenance contract in the amount of $10,104, which was a contract that was executed and closed in 2015. So for this fiscal year, there are a few articles that are still in process, but the contracts have been awarded. So the marked vehicles, there was $102,000 appropriated. We awarded the base vehicle contract for $98,000, so it's just the equipment and outfitting the vehicles. The unmarked vehicle was $43,208. We did award the base contract for $32,000. The radio maintenance contract, we budgeted $12,000. It was awarded, and we only spent $10,080. And the vehicle maintenance and tires is $6,500. That's ongoing through 16, but it's expected that that would be closed at the end of the fiscal year also. Fire. We had in fiscal 2014 an ambulance that was purchased and closed. We had the UHF radio upgrade at $120,000. That was completed. We had the modular building addition in the amount of $38,410, which was completed. And the radio system, microwave system, for another $120,000, a different radio system, which was completed. In fiscal 15, we had the UHF radio upgrade, UHF radios for the upgrade, $35,000. It's in process. We've replaced most of the radios, and I believe it should be closed by this June. Turnout gear in the amount of $12,000 was purchased and completed and closed. And a command vehicle was purchased in the amount of $34,000. That's completed and closed. For this fiscal year, we had, as part of the turnout gear replacement, we had another $12,000. That's in process. It's expected that that will be closed at the end of the fiscal year. And we had engine 2 replacement in the amount of $550,000. It's in process. The base contract was awarded already for $516,000. So the rest will be just for outfitting the vehicle. And it's anticipated it would be closed. The school ones, do you want to walk through that? Or?
Okay, I'm going to walk through that.
Sorry.
So, these are by year, right, Bonnie?
Yes.
So there are a number of school capital projects. We had school iPads and carts. That was from a couple of years ago, 2013. If you remember, that was a lease purchase of 120 iPad plus cards spread out over a 3-year period. So for FY13, there was payment number 2 of 3. We've since obviously completed that lease. We did the univentilators again. So this was 2013. We completed that in 2016 and used up the remaining of the funds, plus funds from the PMBC as well to complete that. And just a side note. We've done a number of phases on the univentilators at Shaker Lane, and this is the first time that we ran into some unforeseen conditions. And we had about $9,000 worth of change orders due to some piping not being in the right place like it has been in all the other units. So we'll see what happens when we do the next ones, and we'll have to research that a little bit closer. High school, the wireless upgrade, that was $40,000, that's completed. Same with the Shaker Lane Wi-Fi. School technology was $25,000, that was completed. That was miscellaneous computers and projectors and document cameras and things like that. The Shaker Lane Playground, that was completed, and again, to remind the board, that was $30,000 authorized by the town, and then we had a $10,000 grant. So that project is done. Shaker Lane bathroom dividers, that was $10,000. That was completed a number of years ago. Again, more technology, computer replacements, that was completed. General maintenance, $10,000. We use that for, honestly, I don't remember all the details if you guys want to know. We did some painting. There was some brickwork we needed to do on the outside because there was some cracking, I think, due to some minor earthquake that came through one year and had some cracking.
Steve, I'm gonna just put you on pause just for a sec. We have a 7:30 public hearing for a all alcohol license. Mr. Clerk, would you mind reading the hearing notice, please?
Board of Selectmen public hearing, all alcoholic beverage license application, Japman Inc., doing business as Masala Bay, 495 Great Road, also known as 501 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts. Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on Monday, October 19, 2015, at 7:30 p.m. in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts. To act on all alcoholic restaurant license application under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, submitted by Napjeet Singh, manager of Japman Inc., doing business as Masala Bay, for the property located at 595 Great Road, also known as 501 Constitution Avenue, Littleton, Massachusetts, and known as The Point, a mixed-use development comprising of 7 lots and approximately 90.27 acres of land shown on parcels 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, 1-6, 1-7, on Assessor Map R18. The applicant is seeking approval for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the premises described as a single-story retail space identified as Unit F1-1 with approximately 2446 leasable square feet consisting of a main dining room, bar, kitchen, and other storage areas in the building now existing or hereafter constructed at 495 Great Road, also known as 501 Constitution Avenue, Littleton. Comments therein should be submitted in writing to the Selectmen Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, by noon on Friday, October 16, 2015, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, James Char, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The hearing is now open. What I will do, though, is I will take a motion to suspend the hearing.
So moved.
And it's been seconded. Sorry?
We've got the applicant right in front of us.
There's going to be discussion.
This is going to be, well, it's going to be a long while, too, so.
Which one?
I think the rate we've been going through here.
No, we're almost done.
All right.
Been moved and seconded? All those
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will reopen the hearing as soon as we're done with this agenda item. Okay, Mr. Mark?
Okay, so FY15 capital projects, we had school iPad and carts again, that was $33,000. That was the final lease payment for that round. We had additional computer replacements of $65,000. That was a combination of laptop purchases and a new lease for an additional 3 years and Chromebook cards. That money has been expended. School technology, $25,000. Again, that was upgrading some of the backbone equipment, the network equipment to the schools. That was done. That was both at the high school and Shaker Lane. Shaker Lane wireless technology has been done. And then the high school roof, that was $100,000. That's actually, they actually start work tomorrow on that. PMBC went out to bid, has received bids, and has awarded a contract for that. Bonnie, I don't remember what the final bid price was, but it's certainly within budget at this point in time.
They awarded a base bid for $36,800. They might expand the scope depending on what they discover when they...
Right, when they get into it, and then there's also engineering work to go with that. So I think PMBC is going to stay within that $100,000. That's for FY15. FY16 capital projects. Am I speaking too fast for everybody?
No, you go.
FY16 capital projects, we had, again, computer replacements. That was a lease payment. We had the life skills room at the high school. That was a $45,000 project. We actually get, I think, electrical and plumbing final inspections are due tomorrow. If anybody hasn't seen it, you should stop over and take a look at it. What we did was we installed a residential type kitchen into what used to be the teacher's lunchroom off of the cafeteria, and it would be used for special education teaching, life skills. So there's a stove, kitchen, washer and dryer, refrigerator. This actually came out very nice. So, but that should be up and running hopefully by the end of the week. The school freezers, that was a motor, frequency drive motors replacements. That was $6,000. That work has mostly been done. They had to come back and finish that. They ran into one minor issue. They couldn't complete one of the motors. We had to do some repairs, and now they'll come back and do that. That was a energy conservation measure. Chromebook computers, again, $45,000. That so there's Chromebook computers, there's miscellaneous technology, and the school textbooks and resource materials. That was at $70,000 that the selectmen voted during the budget process last year. All of those final 3 projects are in process now as we speak. The computers and the equipment, we're working with the principals and the teachers to assess what they need and what needs to be replaced and upgraded. The $70,000 was, some of that money was for professional development as well, and so we'll be expending that money as we go through the year. So in a nutshell, that's basically all of the projects that we've been dealing with.
Just a quick comment about the life skills room. I sing that from the rooftops. That's a fantastic addition to the high school.
Yeah.
That's something that maybe Talk of the Town could do something, Tiger Talk.
Great.
It definitely needs to get as much press as we can, because
I should
that's
have brought you some pictures. It actually
it's
came out very
awesome.
nice.
And that's, you know, there's many of the, we meet the needs of all the kids, and that's it's really a good addition to the school.
Yeah, we tried to get that open September 1, and then we ran into some plumbing and electrical issues, and we had to punch through a concrete wall and do a couple of things, and we had to bring in a 100-amp service into that room to service the stove and the washer and dryer. So that took a little bit more time than we anticipated, but it's a great room. I think it'll be a great resource to the students.
All right,
Thanks.
Melanie, you want to wrap this up?
I'll go right through it. Highway, again, mostly equipment. There was in fiscal 14 a loader refurbishment for $35,000, which was completed for $31,000. Dump truck replacement, budgeted at $58,000, was replaced at just over $50,000. Hot box trailer for asphalt, I believe, $26,000, was purchased for $26,000. This one is still outstanding, the salt shed repairs. I believe that Jim is going to be speaking with PMBC to try and address some of those issues. Shaker and high school walkway repair, that was completed it was appropriated for 20, it was completed for 8,500 approximately. For fiscal 15, there was another pickup truck, dump truck replacement, budgeted at 65 and replaced at just shy of 62. A mower for $25,000, that was pretty much at $25,000. Infield groomer at 21, which was replaced at $16,000, and an asphalt roller budgeted for 35, replaced at 15. For fiscal 16, there were MAC frame rail replacement work that needed to be done. That's in process and is expected to be closed out this fiscal year. And a backhoe replacement in the amount of $150,000. The base contract was awarded for $136,000. Cemetery HVAC system repairs, budgeted at $25,000. We just awarded a base contract for $19,900 in October, and a mower that was budgeted for $4,900, which was replaced and completed. Elder and Human Services, the needs assessment for $35,000, that's completed. We're just processing the final invoice for that. Library was budgeted in fiscal 15 for $5,000 in furniture replacement, which was completed. Recreation, there was security upgrades at Long Lake in fiscal 14 for $6,700, which was completed. And major facility repairs and maintenance issues for fiscal 16, this fiscal year, in $50,000, which is in process. And the final one is for the 300th celebration. There was $50,000 appropriated in fiscal 2014, There is a balance remaining of $18,481. I'm not sure if there are outstanding invoices or legacy issues around that amount, but that's what I have.
So, this was a great exercise. This town, the townspeople spend a lot of money in capital equipment. I thought it was necessary to get a 3-year look back so folks can understand how much these department heads and our departments actually do to make sure that money is spent efficiently and get the best bang for our buck. Any comments, board members?
Thank you for raising it. Thank you guys for putting it together. Sounds like there's nothing wildly off track. Very good. Thank you.
I'll just say, the effort that's put into it, it's important that people know that the money is being spent on things that we need. And I think that, just looking at the Mack frame rail replacement, if we hadn't done that rail replacement, if we had to replace that whole truck, we'd be spending probably, 5 times that money, Jim. I think the only point is that the department heads do a good job of saving the town money. They look for opportunities. I know with the infield groomer, that's something that you've needed for, I don't know how, I used to hound you guys all the time when I was president of baseball, and you've needed one for a long time. And somehow you get by and you make do, and I think all the department heads are really responsible, and I know it's appreciated, and hopefully the townspeople appreciate it.
Mr. O'Donnell?
We've got a pretty good prioritization vetting process too, capital projects working group. I think that helps a lot, because certainly it's a fixed amount of money that's available, and there's many more items on the list that were not funded, and that the department heads certainly seek to get funding for. So it's a town-wide process. I think that's an important piece of this also, to see that the money that is allocated and appropriated is spent wisely is important. But then also how we get to that appropriation for each and every one too is important. And that capital project working group helps tremendously town-wide.
Fantastic. Again, thanks, folks. And, I know we said quarterly. This was a big one. As we move forward and we request another update, anything that's been completed we don't need to hear about, anything that's open would be very helpful. So thank you again.
Yeah, on behalf of the school department, thank you for your support as well. So.
Yeah, very good. All right, thanks. All right, going back to the public hearing, if we can have the petitioners come on up front, and Mr. Bergman will reopen the public hearing for the all-alcoholic beverage license. Was there any notifications in the mail?
We received none. We have staff comments, but nothing from the public.
Okay, why don't you, whomever would like to be the spokesperson, please stand up, tell us who you are and what you're attempting to do in our great town.
Good evening. My name is Attorney Josephine Valier. I represent the corporation, Chapman Incorporated, who have entered into a lease with the landlords at the Point. We have a 10-year lease with 2 additional 5-year options. My client, Mr. Navpreet Singh, is the manager or the applicant to be manager of record. I do have the affidavit of notice of mailing to the abutters. The only actual certified mail card that I did not get back was the one sent to the landlord, but I would suggest that they know that we're here tonight. I would entertain any questions the board may have. The nature of the restaurant is it's a family-run Indian restaurant under the name Masala Bay. I have known this gentleman for a number of years. I've actually represented his uncle in various Indian restaurants for 25 years. So I'm familiar with the family and the quality food and the quality operation that they operate.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your restaurant and seating and size and all that?
We have a plan that was submitted with the original application. There's seating capacity for 84 people. It's a single-story premise. The actual occupancy is about 95. They also intend to offer catering services for off-site events at some point down the road, but at the current moment it's simply the restaurant premise at the Point.
Okay. Traditional Indian food, I would
Yes.
assume? Yeah, okay. Board members, questions, comments?
Maybe just a quick comment. I love Indian food, and I am so excited to have this option in our town. But I know I'm all about food sometimes, but I have high expectations because I have lived in England, so, that's the best Indian food in the world. No, but I'm really serious.
All about Melissa.
I'm very excited at this prospect, but I know we got off on a little bit of a rocky start there, so I hope that we have a smooth execution and all will go well.
Okay, Mr. Avella?
I'd like to defer until staff comments, please.
Sure.
Likewise.
Okay. Staff comments, Chief?
As the board knows, there was just the one glitch in the process of when we were going through the background investigation. We did find an issue with, I guess it would be the president's application. Did have an omission on his file of a criminal conviction. I called Attorney Veglia right away. She did not know anything about the issue, and I talked to the ABCC about the issue itself. It's not a disqualifier. Attorney Veglia sent you letters, which I believe you received, and the manager of record, who would actually hold the license, has no issues whatsoever. So that's my reason I did recommend that the board approve the application. Attorney Veglia assures me it was just a mistake on their part. You received the letters. I found nothing else of issue. I know the chair and others have raised to me the issue. They felt that 4 years ago that somebody should have remembered that and not checked off no on that application. So I know there's some issues there with the board. But again, in my conversation with the ABCC, not a disqualifier, especially because the manager of record actually is the person who's going to be holding the license, which is not the president of the corp. And just for quick clarification, and I know I'm talking between lines, but there are other things at play here. There is only the one actual guilty conviction.
Okay. Defer back to Mr. Avella.
Thanks, Chief. And thanks, appreciate you doing all the research, and thank you for helping clear up the situation, or at least the information that was provided to us. So I agree, 4 years ago is not a long, long time ago for such an incident to be remembered. That's unfortunate, but perhaps that's where it ends. It's just unfortunate, and it's something we can move forward, because certainly, as you say, the manager of record, all things came back plenty fine, and that's what we're really concerned with. Folks make mistakes in lives. We try and get beyond that. But certainly, the specific incident should have been recalled, and I would ask if there were other businesses opened under the president's name between that conviction and the present besides Masala Bay here at the Point. Might you be aware? The purpose of that question is this the only application that the wrong box was checked?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes.
To your knowledge, okay, that's fair enough. Appreciate it. I certainly want to welcome you to town. I think, as you said, perhaps an unfortunate misstep initially with the application process. For me personally, I think we can get beyond that. Certainly, we'd ask you that you be actually very careful, not only of yourselves, but certainly of the patrons that'll be frequenting your establishment. Certainly know one who will be, because she's been to England and knows Indian food. You're killing me with that one.
You know what, that's the best. Come on, you guys are going to help me out with that, right? Because you know what they're doing there. No, I mean...
But sincerely, welcome to Littleton. Look forward to you opening the business. And I would offer that we have a Littleton Business Association in town, and I'd ask that you consider joining it, please. Thank you.
Mr. DeCoste.
I don't have anything to plug, but I echo a lot of what Mr. Avella said. I do appreciate the letter of apology, and the fact that Mr. Singh, as the manager, will be the application is in his name, and the license will be issued, should we choose to do so, in his name. I think it is something we can get past. I think it is a nice addition to the Point, So I do appreciate the apology, and to echo what Mr. Avella said, and just, please be as cautious as possible, not just for yourself, but with the patrons. So it's pretty, I know you have to go through a lot of training, and hopefully that you exercise good judgment.
All right, thank you. So I was the one that actually inquired about the issues. I just want folks to know that we do take this serious. We want to make sure that when we issue a license in town, that we're going to the right establishment. And I think you've heard from the board that we feel this is going to be a good thing. Your manager is going to be responsible. You as the president will be responsible, and it's all good. I would also echo, as Mr. Avella said, about the Littleton Business Association. We have some great farmers in town. So I would ask you to extend your manager or your purchasing agent, whomever, to reach out to our farmers and see if you can get some locally grown vegetables and produce and all that. If we can keep it all in town, that'd be a great thing. So we look forward to doing business with you. We look forward to you opening a restaurant down at the Point. We've heard from the townspeople. That's what they want, is a diversified offerings down there, retail, restaurants, and I think that's what we're getting. So, and you heard the concerns of the other board members, and I echo them also. So let's keep going, get it straight and narrow, and we're good to go.
Just one follow-up.
Yes, sir.
When do you open?
We are still working on that.
Okay, thanks.
It's going to take like 3 months.
3 months, okay. Thank you.
All right, so I'd look for a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'll open it up to public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, I will look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the application of Napreet Singh, manager of Japman Inc., doing business as Masala Bay for 501 Constitution Ave, The Point 1, for all alcoholic restaurant license application under Mass General Law, Chapter 138, subsection 12, for the sale of all alcoholic beverages Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the premises described as a single-story retail space identified as Unit F1-1 with approximately 2,446 leasable square feet consisting of a main dining room, bar, kitchen, and other storage areas, with issuance of said license to be subject to ABCC approval and passing all local inspections.
Second.
Then moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Look forward to opening your opening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, K property. This is an update on the first right of refusal. Last meeting we had, we left it as the board meeting with the petitioner along with the purchaser, and we haven't had a chance.
Haven't been able to schedule the meeting yet. Town council has been in contact with those other principals. We haven't done it yet, so we don't have anything to report tonight. We're still working on it, and so hopefully at a future meeting we can report back. One of the issues that was raised at our public hearing that was conducted back on October 5th was that there was the notion that we may want to entertain the option of assigning the right of first refusal to a qualifying nonprofit conservation organization. And in looking through the statute, the Board of Selectmen is allowed to do that, but you have to do that within the context of a public hearing held under that statute. So since we'll be bringing the matter back, I'd say at our next regular meeting on the 16th of November, that's when the board next meets, that it would seem appropriate to also schedule a public hearing on whether or not to assign the right of first refusal as well, so that if you did want to use that, pursue that option, that you would have followed the statutory procedure to do it. We want to have the discussions between the proposed seller and buyer in the meantime. We want to meet with the groups that might potentially be affected by this, so that so that we can make sure the issues that were addressed in the public hearing, largely concerned about whether there's vehicular access across the K property or not. We were told not. If it's not is a good answer, but how do we make sure that the legal documents say that as well? So there's no update tonight on the conversations we've yet to have with the seller and buyer, but we can come back in about a month, and it would seem an appropriate time to have at least go through the process of having a hearing if you do want to consider a signing.
Yeah, I know, and I spoke to Mr. Knox. He's out in California. His son got married. So he was interested in hearing about that also, and I told him that we can absolutely talk about that at our next meeting. Any comments, board members?
No, it makes good sense. Go with the motion.
Sure. So we will schedule this on 11/16, did you say, is our next regular meeting?
Yep.
11/16, we will open up a public hearing to talk about that assignment and also give any updates that the board has on the petitioner and the purchaser. All right, moving on. I'm sorry?
Do we need to make the motion to schedule it? Is that necessary?
You can, if you like.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to schedule that?
So moved. How about that?
Our erstwhile town administrator put this all together. It'd be a shame not to read it.
Have at it.
Say so moved. Go for it.
Have at it.
So moved.
You want me to read it?
Yes.
Oh.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 61B, Section 9, to schedule a public hearing for Monday, November 16, 2015, at 7:30 p.m. on whether to assign to a nonprofit conservation organization the town's option for right of first refusal for a bona fide offer price of $850,000 for the property located along Grimes Lane in Littleton, Massachusetts, comprising approximately 43 acres and shown on Assessors Map R-08, Parcel 13, and known as the K property.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next agenda item is the November 2nd, 2015 special town meeting, municipal stormwater bylaw in Nagog Hill Orchard Lease premises. Oh, good point.
But first.
Selectman Hebert pointed out that we never did our updates and input, so I'll ask any public input tonight. Okay, seeing none. Oh, yes, ma'am. Please stand up, tell us who you are, and...
Sure.
Yeah.
Can't talk too loud tonight. My name is Julie Rupp. I live on New Estate Road. Every now and again I get out of the house, but usually I hassle you via email. So I'd like to comment on the synthetic turf plans.
Sure.
I heard it a few times from the athletes. It's obviously part of conceptual possibility. I want to start by saying that I was a varsity athlete. I truly value athletics. I think great playing surfaces are very valuable and necessary. I live behind the lacrosse field. I actually collect rocks. Like, I'm trying to help. I'm obviously not collecting them quick enough. So I'll try to work on that. But, so at any rate, when I first heard about synthetic turf, I actually thought it was a really cool idea. And then I started to look into it. And so I wanted to share with you some of the things I've learned in like the last year or so that I've been reading, scientific literature and attending forums and whatnot. In addition...
we at this point? Yeah, this would be very helpful as we move forward.
Yep.
I mean, if...
It just seems like we're going in one direction, and I'm not sure when the best time is.
Well, I think tonight we just, what the purpose of tonight was to either accept or deny an in-kind...
Conceptual design of a synthetic turf.
Of options, not of synthetic turf.
We talked about synthetic turf.
Turf field.
Okay, so
what's out there right now is turf, Mark.
I know.
So, guys, listen, Mark, you, please through me, okay? That's all right. So, tonight what we did was to talk about the acceptance, the board accepted in-kind, a conceptual plan.
Yep.
Now, as that moves forward and they come back to us, and we start talking about what that conceptual plan looks like, I mean, then I think it'd be appropriate to get into the
Well, I'd
whole
like to
turf
help.
conversation.
I'd like to get involved,
Good.
and I'd like to help because I absolutely agree that there are issues with the fields.
Absolutely.
I mean, my guys aren't old enough to play, and so I haven't personally experienced it, but it will be the next couple of years that I will. And so I'm here because I would like to help. I would like to be part of the conversation. I'm not here to derail any plans. I do not dispute in the least that, there's an issue and we need to help, but
Sure.
I feel like my background and the research I've done in the last year could be really beneficial, because I've also looked at other options. And I guess what I heard clearly from Mr. Reardon was he has a lot of experience in synthetic turf. So I guess I didn't hear tonight that he was going to look at other options.
Okay, well, the conceptual plan is just that. It's a conceptual plan. And that's kind of the kickoff point, I would say.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
that's where we need to start.
Yep.
And as this project moves forward, it's not going to be done in a vacuum. The school committee's going to bring it up. The Park and Rec's going to bring it up. So there's going to be plenty of open meetings and public meetings to talk about it. And let's not forget, town meeting, where all this comes, if this all comes to fruition, it will be vetted through the town meeting process also. So I understand and I can get where you're coming. I just think you're just a little too early. You'll get lost.
Never too early. I want to be really well prepared.
Julie, I'll say this, I've spoken to Sean, and
Maybe I can
when I
speak to
use the
Sean.
word turf, pardon me?
Absolutely.
I mean, we do the same
Absolutely,
thing.
yeah,
I've got
definitely.
15 years and
Sure.
he's got 25.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah,
the
so-
same thing.
Sure.
I've spoken to him, when the word turf is used,
It means everything?
absolutely.
Okay. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, I want to know all the options. I have 5 kids, if I don't want to put my kids on a surface that is going to be
I don't- and I think-
unsafe.
and I think
Right now,
everybody in this
they're playing-
process
they're
wants
playing
the
on a
best
surface
for
that's
everybody.
unsafe.
Yeah. Your son is funny. I enjoyed listening to him.
Thanks.
Tell me he's badass for his scars. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing.
Julie, before you run off,
Oh,
in
sorry.
the interim, do you mind sharing your research with the town administrator and he can pass it to us?
Sure. Yeah, sure thing.
Thank you.
Great,
Thanks,
thank you.
Julie.
I'll email it to you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public input? Yes, sir.
Is there going to be, Jared Alfieri at New State Road, is there going to be any opportunity in your discussions on Article 11 for public input?
Article 11, yes. We amend the Jared Water? Yes. We can talk about it, Jared.
Okay, I've got a few concerns I'd like to
Okay.
raise.
Any other public input? Seeing none, member input, Ms. Hebert.
Super quick, 2 really nice things. Number 1, thank you to Springdale Farm, who graciously and generously supported the community back by donating a couple bushels of squash this past weekend for the Long Lake Neighborhood Association Fall Picnic. Not a very big event just for the Long Lake area, but that was really great of Jamie and the Springdale Farm, so thank you. Other thing, planting the seed, an eagle, a potential Eagle Scout would like to do their Eagle Scout project on fixing the docks at Long Lake. So I met with him today to talk about what he was thinking, gave him some advice. I think he'll be coming before us at some point to get support for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Ravello.
I'd like to give an update on the master plan and where we are there. We've released a request for proposal that went out the 14th of the month. We're going to have a pre-brief tomorrow evening amongst the committee members, and certainly the public is welcome to attend that and give us some thoughts on it. And that pre-brief is to prepare us for a briefing that we'll give the potential bidders on the 3rd of November. We'll be in room 103, right here, doing that. Also, the Littleton, for the Rotary Club of Littleton and Acton Boxborough, the 2 clubs coming together, are sponsoring a masquerade ball. That's going to be November 7th at the Holiday Inn, Boxborough. And it's to raise money. It's the local benefit of local food banks in the area. So if you're interested in that, please contact Rotarian in town and we can fix you up with a ticket for it. As I said, it's to benefit the local food banks. November 7th at 6:30. Thank you.
Mr. DeCoste.
We had a couple things. Yesterday, there was an event at Townsend Ridge Country Club to benefit the Lady Tigers basketball team, so it was a fundraiser, first annual. It snowed. It snowed. But there were 100 golfers there raising money for the girls' basketball team. They didn't have very good registration last year. They usually, their main fundraising activity is running camps for the young girls in town over the summer. And the registration was so low that they weren't able to hold their camps. So they didn't fundraise. So they, Rick Hastings, the head coach, Beth Steele, and Stephen Gentili put together a great tournament. and they raised some good money for the girls' basketball team, so that was really awesome. Piggybacking on Melissa's Eagle Scout project, there is another scout who's looking for a project, so if there are any other opportunities out there, you can reach out to me if you want to. I'm in touch with Matthew Siders. It's not Matt, is it?
Nope.
Okay, so Matthew Siders, a scout who's interested in a project. He had a project that kind of got away from us a little bit. It was a little more than, he'd become like a double Eagle Scout if he did this project. But, and the last thing is Littleton Youth Football Football and Cheer is doing their major fundraiser. It's this Saturday evening at Boxborough Holiday Inn, and it's the Fools concert. It's the Jay Giles cover band, and Lisa George is working really hard to put this together. And again, it's another fundraiser for our kids. So if you have any questions, don't reach out to me because I'll lead you astray. But Lisa George, I'm sure you can find her. There's signs all over town, so that's another area. Last thing I have that's more on the town side is on the MAPC. Are we okay with that as far as the green communities?
I'm meeting with, yeah, we're okay. I'm meeting with Mike and Kelly tomorrow, but I talked to Mike about it.
All right, good deal. Thank you.
All right. I have no updates, so we'll move on to item number 4, November 2nd, 2015 special town meeting with the Article 11 and the Orchard lease. Mr. Bergman.
There's two outstanding matters for town meeting, and I've invited town council to talk to us about Article 11, the stormwater bylaw. We've had the discussion up till now that there are some issues about the extent to which the town is in compliance with our 2003 EPA permit. And those issues come to the fore once the new EPA permit is issued in 2016. We've identified, and we got a large tome from Tom, for our last meeting, which went through exhaustively all of the provisions that will need to be addressed, only some of which we could address by the article in the warrant for November town meeting. That there are other matters that even if we adopted the article, that there's some other matters we need to adopt in May. And as I think Chuck pointed out last time, is that we ultimately have a June 30, 2016 deadline. So in terms of this being a matter that needs action, it does. It needs action before the end of the fiscal year. We had some question about whether if we were going to bring a bylaw text forward to town meeting. We certainly don't want to spring it on the voters without them having read it in their packets, and it wasn't in the packet that got mailed out. The Board of Selectmen has the authority to adopt regulations, but just because you have the authority, if you could bring it to town meeting, maybe the right thing to do is to work on the bylaws this winter and bring whatever it is that we need in a complete form to the annual town meeting in May as a town bylaw, so that we're being transparent with what's happening. We're bringing it to the town meeting voters to act on, and so with respect to the forthcoming special town meeting, the recommendation that I would make is that the board, that we take no action on the bylaw article, but rather state in the intent to bring any needed bylaw amendments to the spring town meeting. That will give us the time. There's a lot of moving parts going on. I would say that there could genuinely be a lot of confusion considering what's going to happen with the 2016 EPA permit, a lot of which we don't know about yet. And including the, do we need to get into the stormwater business as other towns are doing? What's the cost? All of that stuff. Those answers we don't have, and we won't have them any sooner than, the annual town meeting. We will be working towards that. Although Bonnie may have them sooner than that, because we're all going to ask Bonnie how that works and how to pay for it. But in terms of what action do we ask the voters to take next month, I would recommend that we take no action at town meeting, but rather state our intent to bring it back to the town meeting voters in May. Okay. So, Tom, anything to add?
an excellent summary as usual. I guess I would add, so as we approached this earlier in the process, we thought, okay, that the illicit discharge portion of the current 2003 EPA permit, we're supposed to be looking for illicit discharges. That's the one that I wanted to cover, and that's what Article 11 is about. But as Chuck pointed out, and as Keith and I have talked about, we still have time to cover that at the annual. We cover that there's two others. It's minimum control measure 4, which is construction site stormwater runoff, and minimum control measure 5, which is post-construction stormwater management. We do currently cover those issues through planning board and CONSCOM bylaws and regulations, but we might need to beef them up to satisfy the 2003 permit. Looking forward, we're going to get the new permit probably around year's end, but certainly before annual town meeting. And it seems prudent to, instead of putting something in place now and maybe having to change it again at the annual, we don't have to put it in place now. Let's wait, let's get the new permit, see what that's going to require us to do, and then put the package together for town meeting. I think there's an educational component that goes along with this too, and I think that might be easier to do once we get the new permit and can kind of package the whole thing and explain to people what our rights and responsibilities are.
Any expected date on the 16?
Maybe by the year. And one of the issues that the Mass Municipal Association is pursuing, and I raised it at a legislative breakfast that they had in Concord last Friday morning, was that MMA is urging that EPA, sorry for all the abbreviations, that the Mass Municipal Association wants the Environmental Protection Agency to issue the MS4, and you'll have to tell me what that is, permit to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, rather than to dozens, if not hundreds, of individual cities and towns. I have to say, some of the legislators, when I raised the issue, were, what's that? It was not on their radar screen because it doesn't require action by them, but I think that at least that group is beginning to get it, that it's going to have a huge financial impact to some degree on their constituents, on the cities and towns, and at the very least, the municipalities would be prefer to all be dealing with DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, that we know at the state level, rather than with the federal agency dealing with, dozens or hundreds of us. So that's the first ask that MMA is looking for, is to get the one permit for the state, which apparently is what happens in almost every other state. And I'm not sure why it's not on the dock for us. So
interesting. Sit tight and wait. Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you folks are deferring this, because I was pretty surprised when I see something that could have far-reaching implications. For example, when you talk illicit discharge, does that include a sump pump? There are certain areas of town where, because of the geology, the storm drains are about the only place you can put water without impacting the neighbor of the street.
Some pumps are excluded.
Some pumps are.
There's a specific exemption in stormwater regulations for some pumps if they are discharging groundwater.
Okay, that was my big concern, but in general, seeing a regulation that's not there, I'd rather see it deferred to town meeting where we can all understand. The other question is where this is more of a public health issue, does it really fall under the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Health, or is that defined by state statute?
Tom has the answer to that.
I think it's a political decision. Where you want to put it is where it goes. But it is important to think about, we need kind of a regulator of this, and who is going to perform that function.
I think as we move forward, that question specifically will be vetted through our process. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the section, I'll take a motion, or do you want to do both of them? Or do you want to-
Maybe separately.
Okay, separately.
Vote on Article 11.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to withdraw Article 11, Town Bylaw Amendment Discharges to Municipal Storm Drain System from the November 2nd, 2015 Special Town Meeting warrant with the intention to bring any needed bylaw amendments to the May 2016 Annual Town Meeting.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Shortens town meeting.
I'm sorry?
Shortens town meeting.
Shortens town meeting. So our next one is to talk about the orchard lease and parcel R02-10-0.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a vote to be taken tonight, but just to put on your radar screen, that between now and town meeting, and I think you're doing it the last possible moment, the last business day before town meeting is Friday, October 30, and you've got a 4:30 site visit scheduled with Conservation Commission to look at the Nagog Hill parcel. Conscom has expressed concerns about one of the properties. I'm glad somebody asked me for a map of the Nagog Hill property, because we actually put one together and stitched it together, and it's this parcel here, R02-10-0. It's the one that's closest to Nagog Pond. It is held by the town for general municipal purposes, unlike all the other parcels here, which are all either for agriculture or self-help conservation parcels. This one here, which has not been active, to my understanding, has not been actively used as part of the, the growing,
I know, having dealt with the farmer that's currently operating the orchard for us, and does a tremendous job, by the way, does use those buildings there. So I would just, as we do our tour with conservation and the folks that are going to be there, just simply ask the question, what do you use them for? I know it's part of the orchard operation.
Yeah, and so we're aware that Conservation Commission has approached the selectmen with concerns about that parcel, which we have the opportunity to discuss prior to
Not concerns about the property, it's more of the use of the property and the ability to have artists go out, as Mr. Finley had once approached us in regards to doing some clearing and keeping it up, and it's going back to its natural state. So they're talking about using it for artistic.
And we also know that the town of Concord is very interested, is very proprietary about the property that abuts its public drinking water supply. So there's lots of people to consult about that parcel. So anyway, just to flag that as an issue, and whatever, and I've got a mechanical concern, and that is that we go into town meeting on that Monday night with a last-minute list of, one-pager of any final motions, and if there is one to be made, it would be helpful to get a signal of what that might be.
Are we going to have a quorum there Friday on the 30th?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about.
Yeah.
You can post it as a meeting. You have to post it as a meeting.
But you don't have to, because it's a site visit.
Yeah.
So site visits, you don't have to post as a meeting, but you may.
But if they wanted to deliberate on the other
Correct.
matter.
Yeah, if you want to deliberate, you have to.
Let's post that, and I think
Okay.
we can answer some questions real quick.
That would be good, and that'll at least let us get 200 copies of a one-pager.
And I would suggest that Conservation also do the same.
Great, we'll do that.
Joint meeting.
That was my question.
Okay.
It's addressed.
Sorry. Any other questions?
Could I have a comment on this?
Sure.
It'll be quick.
Yep.
John McIver, I guess this case from the Wilton Conservation Trust. Rick Finley, who we've mentioned, is actually at a CONCOM meeting. There are things on both agendas. I see the CONCOM is doing a site walk on the 30th. Is that a joint site walk?
Yes.
Good, that's
4:30,
helpful. And it's a combination of things. When the land was originally being acquired, this was never thought of as being part of the orchard. And I agree, Charles Auger does a fantastic job. There's no question about that. But, and some of the small house there was used for storage of equipment, and also there was a person living there which was not allowed because of the lack of septic system. So I think it was probably the,
I'm talking more about the barn.
okay. And
We can have the conversation out there, and I think the board, both the conservation and Board of Selectmen should be able, it's a quick, easy
right.
conversation.
The other issue is actually management of the land. It isn't so much the use, it's all the invasives coming in, and it's getting worse and worse. And I think we need some sort of control over that. It doesn't add much to the farming operation, and the barn could be talked about, maybe that'd be separate, but to tie it up for 30 years is probably not the way to go. And, you know, you're talking about having sort of a clean town meeting. It would be good to have an option where that gets cut out. I see we have also a neighbor that lives across from the barn on that little island, if you look at the map. They're trying to, they want to have it fixed up and deal with invasives and remove some of the invasives, which isn't going back to nature, it's all these non-native invasives taking over and making the situation worse. So it really does need to be managed as a very scenic aspect, as was pointed out. It was one that covers the open space recreation plan because it's probably one of the most attractive areas in Littleton that's being degraded. You know, you have people here that are here for this particular issue. So to manage it and to do it well, what would be good is to leave it out of the lease and then put together a committee to get all the perspectives and manage it well. If there's a question about the use of the barn, then that may be a separate thing that could be dealt with as necessary. And that's something to get resolved with the arborists, you, Concom, and other folks there. I know we're running late, but that's in a nutshell. It'd be nice to have the option to remove that particular parcel, the 20-acre parcel, which is really isolated. As far as Concord goes and the water supply, they're building a filtration plant which removes a lot of the issues. So, you know, trying to get on the same page and trying to make it as easy as possible and having some sort of clean direction for town meeting.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That's in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe, Mary, you should introduce yourself. In town we have Dr. Mary Fuhrer, who's moved in, who's a preservationist and historian. She lives at the old Morrison house where Eunice Morrison lived until she was 97, across there, and they've been fixing that up quite a bit and restoring it because that's what they do.
Okay.
And they're also interested in that area. So there's a strong interest in improving it and managing it.
Thank you. Do you have any comment, ma'am? Just let us know who you are.
I'm Mary Fuhrer. My husband and I live at 91 Nagog Hill, and it is true we would love to see that area managed, but I would also add that, as other people have said, that Charles Auger does a terrific job with the farming part of the orchard farming there, and I wouldn't want to see any step taken that put any stress on him, requiring more from him. He's a good farmer and a good neighbor, so just to speak in his support as well.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Yeah.
I have
Yes,
a comment.
sir.
My name is Calvin Yap. I live at 441 Newtown Road.
Yes, sir.
That piece of parcel that we're talking about is one of the best views in Littleton. And it is growing up in invasives, the same type of invasives that I get into my property. So it would do the town justice to clean that invasive problem out because it just spreads to everything else. And if you see some of the lands within that area that are spread by the berries, the birds carry the berries and spread them, it's getting really bad. So I would just like to go on record here, and I'd like to see that put back to what it was. It was a beautiful scenic view.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on. 6A, plowing, sanding, private ways. Thank you, council.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Mr. Clyde.
All goes to sleep. It's our annual review of the plowing and sanding private ways. The only change is the last one on the list, Whispering Pines, Drive, they've already taken care of moving the 2 logs, so that could be moved up into the
No
problem
conditions.
category. Everybody has already received letters on what they need to do. We tried to get them out as soon as we could, but in hopes they take care of it. Pretty much the same as it is every year.
Did you give them a deadline as far as getting this stuff wrapped up?
We just sent a letter saying, please take care of it, and basically they technically can't get plowed or sanded until they take care of it.
Okay. And do you go out and do a re-inspect?
Yes, they call us when they're done.
Very good. Board members, questions? Look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to its August 28, 2000 policy on plowing and sanding private ways to approve the list of roads as recommended by the Highway Department report dated September 29, 2015 as follows. Approved without further conditions. Barron Way, Bar Place, Countryside Road, Great Road, 504 through 512 plowing only. Hidden Path Road, Oak Ridge Road, Omega Way, Rock Place, and Whitcomb Ave, 139 to 149. Approved subject to conditions set forth by the Highway Department. Cricket Lane, Deer Run Road, Green Needles Road, Neshoba Woodland section, Green Needles Road, the back half, Robinwood Road, Silver Birch Lane, Star Hill, Winged Cove Road, and Whispering Pine Drive.
Move that Whispering Pine up
Oh, sorry, Whispering Pine Drive.
without further.
Approved without condition.
Approved without further.
Second.
Move to second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, Jim, you're on the hot seat here. Nagog Hill, Newtown Road intersection configuration.
This is part of the road reconstruction project that we're designing for Nagog Hill Road. We had one public meeting to start the process, and the intersection came up. Some concerns from neighbors came up, so we tried to work through them. Then we had a site meeting. We had some of the residents come out, and we still couldn't come to a resolution, so that's why it's before you. We feel the T intersection is a safer intersection. It reduces the conflicts with traffic. Some of the residents' concerns are there hasn't been any real accident history there, and they don't see why we need to change it. It's just good engineering practice and design to make it a T. This is better for traffic. Just in a nutshell, I know you're running behind, so.
Okay. Engineers, anything else to add to that?
No, we can answer any questions you may have.
All right, I want to defer to public safety. I see the 2 chiefs here. Have you had an opportunity to take a look at this, have your input?
We did. We were on, I'll speak for myself, but we were on site the date for that visit and the discussion. It makes sense to put it into a T-view. At least you definitely have a longer sight distance to see cars coming up from further down on Newtown Hill.
From the police standpoint, I was also on site for it, taking a look at any type of intersection that's a Y intersection like that, where the cars are crossing paths. It's just basically a recipe for an accident. I know as far as the data shows, we don't show motor vehicle crashes there often, but it's the potential for it. It makes a lot more sense to have a T intersection. And how they have it designed, it would be straightening it out and giving a line of sight more, looking down Newtown Road when you're pulling out. Because right now, if you go up to the left-hand side of that Y intersection to come out, which would be right in front of Mr. Clancy's driveway, is a very short line of sight because he has a line of hedges and everything there for pulling out onto Newtown from there. So as far as the public safety, police department, we'd like to see it as a T intersection.
Anybody have other comments from public? Just let us know who you are.
Calvin, yeah. I sent the board a letter. Has anybody had the opportunity to read?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for looking into it.
It's in the packets with the photos.
As long as I've lived there, I don't remember any accidents, not even a fender bender. Now, I think that there's a number of reasons why I'm against changing that intersection. one is a historic road that goes back 200 years. And if we wish to discuss some of the history of the road, then we can do that. The second reason is that the road, the way that it is a Y. It's a Y intersection. There's a Y intersection at the end of Neshoba Road, where it ends out to Great Road, down near Great Negron, a small Y. At the other end of Nagog Hill Road, where it goes into Acton, it is also a Y. That was how it was done. That's how it was evolved as a road, a historic road. In the Y of the junction of Newtown Road and Nagog Hill Road, where you have the Y, within that Y is common ground. That is a space where people, and I've seen this over the years, people that ride their bikes or they walk or whatever they do, they come up the two hills, they're tired, they take a rest there, they stop there. Not everyone, but quite often they do. There were two women over there last week on bicycles. They stayed there for about an hour and a half. Leslie and I were stringing some electric fence, and while we were doing that portion going down along Nagog Hill Road, the women were up there for at least an hour and a half, just sitting, talking, and they rode off someplace. When you have a common ground intersection like that, it's an inviting place for somebody to want to stop. If you have a residential property, do we stop on residential properties and sit on their front lawns or their side lawns and do what we're doing? No, we don't. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be imposing on that resident, and neither do we want somebody coming out of the house to impose on us. It's been a common ground for a long time. I appreciate the way that it looks. I appreciate the way that it functions. And I appreciate the history of it. I don't want to change it. It's in the historic part of Littleton, the Newtown district. I'd like to keep it that way. I don't see the need to change it. When we discuss about the safety of the particular road, if you take the Y out and you make it a 90-degree intersection, if a car headed towards Littleton Common decides to take a right and to go down into that intersection, that is a decline. If it's inclement weather, the road is changed to a 90, you have two cars coming up, or one car. If a car turns to go down, if it hasn't been sanded, hasn't been taken care of, if that surface is slippery, the driver loses control, where's it going to go? It's going to go into the other car. The present way that it is, if somebody goes down the southern portion of the Y, they have an opportunity, slow it down, get it under control, and they don't crashing into another car. The northern portion of the Y has the space two cars can pull up if they need be, one behind the other. If you draw out the intersection that it would be, I sent a photo. In the photo, there's an arrow. The arrow points to an orange line, which is going to be the southern boundary of the new intersection. Think of yourself headed towards the common. You're going to pull down into that intersection. It declines. You turn, now you're in a slope. You have some kind of icy rain, snow, any kind of a situation that makes the road surface slippery. If you lose control of your vehicle, you're going to go by kinetic energy right straight. So this is, I'm not hearing, and I'm not seeing, and I'm not convinced in the engineering aspect of this, that this improves this road. It's a decline. It's a 90-degree intersection with a decline. When cars turn into the decline, if the road is slippery, you have a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tom Clancy, I live at 450 Newtown Road. That would be my new driveway we see there. This is going on the third go-round of this, and no one is at more risk than my wife and I pulling in and out of our driveway. We bear the sole responsibility of the frequency with the increase in traffic. This is a safety issue. If it's so, I understand there's history, but this is a safety act that's much safer. We're in favor of it as we rode. And I just don't think, this is the same thing. There's been no accidents. Say, well, I haven't filed a home insurance claim, then maybe I shouldn't have it. When it happens, it'll be too late to change the intersection around. And I think in the interest of safety, for my wife and I, and people that visit us, that this is the alternative the town should consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Tom. How is it not safe, Tom?
How's it not safe, Calvin? You don't pull in and out of my driveway. The cars come around that corner 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I have to pull out of my driveway. It's frequency. It's what it is.
When you pull out of your driveway, what blocks your view?
My hedge,
Okay.
right? My privacy, okay? Or a snowbank in the
So
winter.
if you took away, like,
If it's so sacred, why did we pave it? Why don't we make it dirt?
All right, so gentlemen, I understand that there are different point of views here, and I can appreciate that, but we've heard both your opinions, and that's where we'll stay. Any other comment? Board members, Melissa?
Chairman, there's been a clear voice on either end of the side of the house. I mean, I was trying to kind of think about, is there a meet in the middle option? I don't know where we can, improve the safety but maintain some of the things that are important, like relocating the items that are there or preserving. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what the solution is, but I do agree with all the points that were made, to be honest with you. I mean, you want to be proactive about, nipping potential safety problems in the bud. Also want to preserve, some historically important things. So it's a tough one. And I went down there, I looked, I took pictures, I thought, I gave this one thought. It's tough.
Mr. Avella?
I do appreciate the historic perspective that you brought to us, Mr. Yap, and certainly the preservation of flagpole out there and the display of the U.S. flag. I appreciate that greatly. I've got some engineering questions, though, if I may. In time, the line of sight at the current speed limit as to the Y intersection, what is it? Do you know?
In actual seconds? Like how it's approximately 130 feet. So at 30, my math isn't that good on the spot like this, but at the posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour, it's not that much.
2.5 seconds.
The proposed intersection improves that by about 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but when it comes to driver reaction time, 4 seconds is a significant amount of time.
Because that was going to be my next question, the reaction, and then from the observing of a potential in the reaction and actually stopping the vehicle.
Right.
That heats up to that 2.5 seconds or so pretty darn quickly. And your proposal adds 4 seconds.
Approximately,
Notionally.
given the posted speed limit, yeah.
And we've all been on that road often enough to know there's a posted speed limit, and there's a speed limit, right, Chief? But now, from the traffic safety perspective, the gentleman maybe answer it, and maybe the chief, either one of the chiefs. To Mr. Clancy's points about downturn, we turn into a 90-degree intersection, and you are indeed headed towards the common, make the right-hand turn and down the hill. Certainly with ice and snow, sand, many things, there's too many permutations, but in general, as the road's currently designed in that 90, how much of a difference do we gain in safety one direction or the other, keeping the Y or going the 90? To Mr. Clancy's contention.
point to me.
Excuse me?
Are you pointing to me?
No, I'm asking him the question.
Okay.
I'm referring to your comments.
Yeah, you're calling me Mr. Clancy.
Oh.
Or Mr. Yap.
I apologize.
That's all right.
Apologize greatly, actually, Mr. Yap. Why would I Clancy? Don't know the answer.
It's age.
Age, thank you. But to the point, as far as the intersection, turning that, whether or not the safety is an issue or not that way.
I would offer a few things. On a conventional T intersection such as we're proposing here, it it requires the driver, say on Newtown Road in this case, to slow down to make that right-hand turn, which is inherently a safer maneuver. Regardless of road condition, whether it's icy or dry, at night, day, it's inherently a safer turn or maneuver for the vehicle. Whereas under the current conditions, as Mr. Clancy had stated, and we've observed
Sorry
it,
about that.
the folks come around that corner now in the current Y, and they don't really slow down. They come pretty quick around that corner, and then they stop when they get to the actual Y, the confluence of the two Ys of Nagog, but they don't stop as they come off of Newtown. So in that situation, I believe it to be inherently safer, in my opinion.
All right, thank you. That's all, thanks.
Mr. DeCoste.
I mean, certainly there's a lot of information. I agree with what Melissa had to say. There's two sides of the coin here. My first question is, what is the impetus? How did this even come to us? Was this something that...
We usually resolve these things in the field, and there was no clear consensus among interested parties about what the answer was. So we had, I think, I forget how many people we had there, but we at the site visit, we had Selectman Knox as well, but there were folks who were very much in favor of one option, of the no change option, and we had folks very much in favor of the change option. And most of it's unusual that we have to bring it for policy decision, but there's no one else to make the final decision and have it stick, so it comes here. We try to, on other road projects, we've resolved things in the field. We've had site visits, we've talked it out and come up with solutions. In this case, we've got two options and no consensus among all the parties on which you should do.
That's what they pay you for, Chuck.
Yeah, let's...
So we're coming to our own fork in the road here, see.
Clever. That was awful. I mean, if there was some data that supported a safety issue, I think that I would be more willing to spend money to fix a problem. Personally, just from an aesthetic standpoint, I hadn't even thought about the historic aspect of it. I kind of like the way it's set up right now. I like islands, with green space at the end of roads, and because I grew up cutting them. But
It's a piece of the overall project. The road is going to be fixed.
I mean, there's no
Yes.
cost difference.
Right,
There's no
right.
cost differential.
I would argue this
doing
might
it
be
one way or the other.
a less costly option than
I
reconstructing.
appreciate that input.
existing.
I appreciate that
There's
input.
less pavement.
Okay. I don't know, I wouldn't, I mean, obviously, we're gonna have to come up with, this is what I get paid the big bucks for. I'm gonna have to make a decision, but Tom, I apologize, I haven't pulled out of your driveway, so I can't speak to what you've spoken to, but the fact that there's been no evidence or no data to support that this is a safety issue, I have a tough time making a change.
Okay. Jim, before I get you, I'm going to go with Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to get on, back to the safety aspect, we did eliminate the Y intersections at the end of the New Estate Road near Road in the reconstruction for simply almost the same reason, that there is no incline. When people swing off a New Estate Road, they're doing speed, as the engineer said. And while, again, I went through my computer and, there's no real data there. Obviously, the Air Road intersection, totally a different intersection. King Street, New Estate Road, we teed those intersections, again, for safety reasons. And, as Mr. Clancy said, his driveway right now comes out right into that Y. People are going by the end of his driveway, swinging down that road at 35 miles an hour. And I would submit to you that if that Y was icy or anything else, you do then face the fact of a possibility of you not only sliding out into the traffic coming up the hill, but also traffic coming down from the common way, making a left on Nagog Hill Road. And, as I have, I don't envy your decision, but I would say to you as chief of police that I look at the traffic, what the engineers tell me and what the new construction of the road do to give for safety. And it only takes one accident to make an issue. And that's one reason with the new traffic safety data and things like that, they design the roads. I believe it's a safer intersection. And I'm all for historic because I've been here for over 30 some odd years. I was here when Mr. Clancy and the neighbors up there proposed the flagpole and everything else for that site. That I believe Mr. Clancy maintains that site. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the flagpole is staying or moving or anything else, but I'm just, from my perspective, the safety of the roadway is where I lean.
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. brought up a couple of good points about, people stopping there. We are going to create a larger green space, so there will be a bigger green space, but I could see his point of, do you consider that someone's front yard? But it will be a larger green space. We also closed from a Y intersection on Mill Road by St. Anne's, used to be a Y, and people were upset when we changed that, said it wasn't going to work, and it does work, and it's safer to pull out because you're square to the intersection. There probably wasn't a big accident history there, but it was, traffic converging on each other. We shrunk the intersection at Harwood Ave, at Newtown Road, and we were criticized. They shrunk the intersection probably by 8 or 10 feet, and people said it wasn't going to work because they're used to traveling off of Newtown Road onto Harwood Ave at 40 to 45 miles an hour, and they actually had to slow down to make the corner, and it makes it a little bit safer. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do. It's a larger area to plow. Can we plow it the way it is? Absolutely, because we've been doing it for years, but it would make it easier to plow as a T. It's less confusing, less area to plow, and things like that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Dear Spore, I was just interested in how this came up. Who suggested that?
You didn't hear Mr. Bergman?
Change.
Mr. Bergman just...
Well, the engineers recommended
They engineered the site based on what they felt was necessary, and because at the field they couldn't have...
Just got a text from the selectman who attended the site visit, wondering if he should come down here to participate in the vote.
But not all roads are subjected to an engineer deciding if they're safe or not. So how did this happen?
Go ahead.
This is part of a larger reconstruction project of Nagog Hill Road from the Acton Town Line to Newtown Road.
Because of what reason?
Because the Board of Selectmen voted to include Nagog Hill Road in our 10-year roadway improvement plan. And so we're designing it, we need to bring it to a 25% design phase to get on with the project. We can't proceed to complete the design until we decide what the intersection looks like, because the road is, it's in the queue to get done.
Keith, was it an acceptance thing like New Estate Road was?
No.
Oh,
All right, so, you all said, Mr. DeCoste? I'm good. Okay. Mr. Yap, I can appreciate what you're saying about the area being green and having a place to stop. And I can appreciate the fact that folks are going to think it's your front yard. So that's where I'm at. I think that the historical piece is very important to me also. As far as the safety piece, again, as Mr. DeCoste said, the data just doesn't show that it is, and I understand if it only takes one. It only takes one, I understand that. I would, if we're gonna go with the T, I would wanna see something on that property to say common space. So,
Is that island named now?
no,
Oh, that's of ignorance.
no. So, Go ahead.
Just two more points I wanted to mention. The flagpole that you had mentioned that's in the island now will not need to be moved or relocated. That can stay, as well as the tree. So we're actually working around that area as well.
That'll be part of the green space.
Exactly. Yeah, those will stay where they are.
There's an old one, yeah.
I haven't seen the letter that Mr. Yap had provided you folks, but what we had marked out in the field was a very conservative layout of the intersection. And we talked at that time that we would go back and look at a tightening up the intersection, and that's what's presented in the plan that we presented to you folks, with a more reduced scope of that intersection. So what's proposed now is a little bit more narrow than what was shown and what we had marked out in the field. We wanted to present a potential worst-case scenario for what that intersection layout may look like at that meeting. In regards to the grades and the coming in and out of the intersection, they are what they are. They're already about 13.5% or 14% as they are coming around. We can look at some options to try to lessen the impacts of that grade without substantially impacting the abutters, including Mr. Yap and others, to try to correct that grade. We're going to look at that as we progress the design, if this option is approved, to create more of a level landing as much as we can at the top of that curve, which is what would be a standard practice for an incline like that as well, to help address some of the concerns that were had about the incline of the road.
Just more money.
Well, it's all within the cost of the project. It's not a...
It's all more money. Right? More construction. So, I guess...
I think Mr. Knox is on his way down to the to join the meeting.
Oh, is he?
Because
Good.
he was engrossed by the TV coverage.
So, you know, I think, Mr. Yap, you talk about the historical aspect of it. Can you be specific in regards to something? Maybe we can have a marker put out or something to signify the importance of that piece.
Definitely. I think Dave Wickham, he's also the president of the Historical Society, would probably be more concise about it, but I can tell you that the first schoolhouse was not within the V, they call it a B back then, but it was near the V, which I call the Y today, and in my communication I call it the Y. But the first schoolhouse in Littleton was in that very close vicinity of the V. Dave can also tell you some other facts that relate to that road that go back to the Revolutionary War.
Mr. Wickham, please.
Yes, thank you, David Wickham, Littleton Historical Society. Margaret Thatcher Drury was our librarian for 37 years. She was a historian for the town of Littleton for 50 years, and she collected voluminous pieces of information about the town, Littleton, anecdotes, and she was and still is very accurate. Nobody's found her to be incorrect yet. And she made a note in her chapter on schools a number of years ago that at the V on Cash Road and Newtown Road was a schoolhouse. Now, Cash Road is now Nagog Hill Road. Name changed 60 years ago. The schoolhouse, if you're coming up Nagog Hill Road toward Newtown, the schoolhouse was just off in the field on the right-hand side. And that school only existed from about 1800 to 1830. So this intersection, in its current configuration, was there over 200 years ago. And I'm certain that even before colonials on horseback and horse and wagons and whatnot, back in the 1500s, our town of Neshoba, which means land between the waters, was used, Nagog Hill Road, was used as a pathway that the Indians traveled for a number of reasons between Fort Pond, Nagog Pond, and Long Pond. And I just want to try and get you to picture yourself, if you were back there for the first time, as an Indian in 1550, and you're walking across this hilly terrain, and then you start trudging up this steep hill, then you come to another hill that's even steeper, and you get near the top of the hill, any self-respecting Indian would not try and traverse right straight up the face of this hill. If he was going south, he'd angle off to the left and ameliorate the inclination, and the same as if he was going up toward to the east. You would want to take a slightly angled approach so you don't have the severe inclination right in front of you and try and defy gravity. So I think that's why that V is there and has been there for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, I don't want it to be my front yard. I put the flagpole in, I petitioned the board and said, can I have the flagpole from the old police station and do something? Because I think it's a gateway into town. It is. If we look at the green space there, I have no problem paying for a marker that says this is a historic land site. I've got tons of stuff I want to throw in there for people to stop, because they do. I haven't done anything with the pole because that's where all the snow goes now. There's no sense in me going in there and making it nicer, because that's the only place the highway has to dump the snow in that intersection. This gives us the ability, yes, we're going to lose a triangle, but we can take that intersection and still make it inviting. And I would. My wife and I have spent a lot of money updating our house because we like to have a nice looking home. And when I saw this, I said, wow, that's an opportunity to take that place, because now we have a place to put the snow when they clean the intersection, and I can put all these giant rocks for people to stop on their bikes and sit, and we can put a marker in there and make it a place that people want to stop when they're running or doing whatever. And I just don't want this to be antagonistic, and I understand you have a decision to make, but this is an opportunity to really make that intersection something that when you come into town or you travel this way, it's going to be a place that people are going to, wow. And that's all I'm looking at it, along with the safety aspect of getting out of my driveway. But this is just, it's just time to make a decision, I think, at this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Knox?
Hi.
All right, how are you today?
Just get back, excuse my attire.
So I assume you have an opinion on this? Coming back from California.
I just turned on TV, and I was at the site walk, and I couldn't agree more. I went there with the viewpoint that Mr. Clancy talked about. I mean, yeah, that Mr. Yap talked about.
Play it again later.
Yeah.
Call me Tom.
Tom. Call me Cal.
That Mr. Yap talked about, because I've seen changes in the past that I've never wanted to see changed. I've seen ends of roads change sometimes to make the entrance shorter, which I never agreed with. And the last thing I wanted to see was this one change. So I went to this meeting probably to argue that the change shouldn't be made. But after hearing from residents, and there were other residents there, I know I stood next to, I think, Mr. Chant from Berry Bush Road. Mr. Ewing was there, and his wife. I think Mr. Chant, when he first got there, was in the mode of saying, I don't want this to change either. But after hearing what the engineers said, I think it's important to point out, two of the concerns I had was when you come up to the top of the hill, is it going to be at a slant? And the engineers said they'd do their best to have some kind of a level off a little bit. Tell me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking out of place. Level off a little bit, so if you got up the top in bad weather, it would be there. My other concern was shortening the entrance, because I'm always concerned about that. It seems that I like a wide entrance, so I went there once again, I went with the idea of, I don't see any reason to this. I don't want things to change in town or not. But after I heard all the people that we put in position to talk about the things that we have, your fire department, your highway department, your police department, and then the engineers, they were all in favor of this change. And by the time it was all done, and I understand where Mr. Yap is coming from, he's right across the street, and I understand the intersection, I didn't want that to change, but when I was all done, I was fully in favor of going with this brand new T that I had no intentions of going there to support, so.
You know, you show up and I start thinking, I don't know what it is, but, you know, you just brought up some great points. And to Mr. Yap's and to Mr. Wickham's point, why can't we make it the T, but have a pathway through the existing Y, so that we still have the V? There's a paved, so-called a sidewalk, cobblestone, whatever it is, so that that intersection is still the V, and then going back to the early settlers of the Neshoba plantation, would travel up to engineer something like that in. Now, you know, it would solve Mr. Clancy, his issue. Mr. Yap, you know, we still have the V where the old schoolhouse was. Mr. Clancy offered to put a marker up. I'll take you up on that.
Take it out of the chief's budget.
Depending on what these engineer folk can do as far as keeping it within budget, maybe the town can help out with that. But we get the best of both worlds. We don't lose our history. We make the road a little bit safer for our residents in town, and we make a little bit bigger green space for folks to actually sit down and relax and to read about.
Just keep it as a common place.
Keep it as a common place,
Not
exactly.
somebody's side lawn or something.
That's it. That will be the exact intent of the marker. So folks can actually still have,
I don't need more grass than mow.
Just have to ask, because designing on the fly is always entertaining, so I'm glad to see you thinking.
well, that's what these guys are for.
But when you say pathways, probably everybody in the room plus one as to what that means. So maybe a little bit more of your vision articulated so we understand. When you say a pathway, you're talking about something that's 2 or 3 feet wide, that's just someone's going to walk upon?
That's all I would suggest.
Road gradable?
I would say, you know, you see these historic pathways throughout other towns.
Not turf.
Not turf, yeah. Something that can signify the V that's been there for over 200 years. Whether it be paved or something aesthetic to the townsfolk is what I'd be looking for.
I think if we did some sort of a nicely landscaped pathway with either stone or, like I mentioned, cobblestone or something that clearly delineates. It's not
There's a
grass,
V.
it's not overground, there's a V. To maintain the historic value and kind of delineate a common area.
And Mr. Wickham, you can get to Mr. Bergman, your historical perspective, that would be appreciated too.
It could be incorporated into it.
Mr. Clancy?
It's all good.
Mr. Yap?
That's fine.
Okay.
So we can ask to go forward, plus 25% design on the T intersection, to come back with a drawing that depicts your vision.
Correct. Do you have enough? You guys get, Jim, go ahead. I see you chomping.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing you talk about cost earlier.
Right.
You're talking about putting cobblestones.
These guys can raise it up to make it flat without going up the cost. I'm sure they can do that. We make room enough.
He was on a roll, leave him alone, Jim.
Yeah,
Which is priceless.
okay.
I was going to hit you on that, too.
All right.
But
All right, any other comments? I look for a motion. I think Mr. Knox should, to be
Yeah, good.
honest. I mean,
Please.
I know where you're going. Just make the comment about the historical V or the respective.
I missed part of that conversation.
All right. You got the V? Okay, go for it then.
Okay. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to direct that the design plans for the Nagog Hill Road reconstruction projects reconfigure the intersection with Newtown Road as a T, including preserving the historical representation of the existing V via a pathway, a walking pathway that is a public use, recommended by the town's engineering consultant, Green International, as a best practice for safety.
may I add, please, because you are incurring more costs than initially anticipated, so that modification, the T intersection as described and just in the motion.
But we're actually saving because it's less paving, so it's going to
I'd
probably
like to-
wash out.
Well, I'd like to know those trade-offs in the actual
Sure.
numbers. So if we could ask, it doesn't necessarily need to be the engineers to come back to tell us, but at least we see that before we approve that portion of the project.
Sure.
Just so I'm clear, you want to know the cost, the differential cost between preserving the intersection as it is and reconstructing as it is today versus constructing as a T with a path?
No. In other words, if you're just on the T intersection,
Yes.
that was going to be a particular cost.
Yeah.
And now with the added vision of our distinguished chairman as part of that, what would that be?
What would that increment
Yeah,
cost?
okay, so it's not a wash between double paving, if you will, the Y versus the T, because we settled on the T intersection and then compromised to come up with something in addition to that.
That's right. I got no problem with that.
You good?
That cost could greatly vary depending on materials you select to use.
Exactly, yeah. That's why I'd like
Gravel, paved, cobble, pavers.
Give us the options.
You just did.
Okay, so list it right out. There's no
That's
reason
rest.
why you can't in a bid document put X amount of footage, cobble, X amount of footage, gravel, X amount of footage, just have them cost it out.
I'll just say you don't want gravel because it's gonna get overgrown over
Yep.
time. You either want pavement or cobblestones. You're probably not gonna be able to afford the cobblestones. I mean, it's gotta be,
I mean, if we're looking
70
for
or 80 feet
historically
there.
accurate material, then pavement wouldn't be appropriate probably for that. So.
Stamped.
Could do cement concrete that's stamped to look colored and to look like brick, or.
That could save money, sure. Right?
more sidewalks to snow blow.
It's less paving.
Why, didn't they snow blow in the 1800s?
Well, the Indians in the 1550s.
All right, so it's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yap, Mr. Wickham, Mr.
Appreciate the
Clance.
input.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And
it.
Mr. Yap, my
All right.
I apologize
to Mr. Clancy. All right, so let's move it on. Staffing vacancy review. Highway operator, laborer.
And a resignation of a laborer, and we would very much like to fill it.
Budget neutral, Bonnie?
Yes.
A little bit of savings. Any questions, board members?
Comment.
Go ahead.
On something like this, I know that it has to come before us in order to allow the department head to fill a position like this. But is there any means by which we can empower the department heads whom we trust to, if it's a one-for-one?
We'd have to review the policy.
We could,
I'm okay with reviewing the policy, if that's what
we
it
could
takes,
review the
because we
policy
trust these
because
people.
we've done that on, by category for certain types of on-call, part-time positions. For example, the chief of police is authorized to have, I think, 12 reserve officers, and if there's a vacancy of one, he doesn't have to come back to us for the replacement.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Precedent.
The financial policy work group is coming the 27th, I believe, is the meeting.
Yes.
If you want to blast an email to me, I will bring it to that group, and we can take a peek at that for you. Mr. Clyde?
This is something that, kind of a request of mine, I guess, too, that, I talked to Bonnie about it a little bit, saying that really Bonnie and Keith are the ones that know the behind-the-scenes stuff. I don't know what's going on townwide budget. I know what's going on with my budget. So I felt like if they felt like my position could be held, then, but if they thought there was something else coming down the road, that there was going to be some financial difficulties, they could say, no, we have to bring this to the board.
Right, I think some type of clearing or
Yeah.
vetting
check
through,
balance.
vetting through.
Yeah, we
the
originally
administrative
adopted a
assistant.
policy during a time at which we weren't, we were,
Fiscally-
even cutting back
fiscally-
hours of
fiscally
existing
constrained,
employees.
absolutely.
Yeah. But we've kept it in place because it causes us all
Well,
to
this particular...
justify what we're doing, so.
This particular individual gave his notice on a Friday. Your agenda's already closed, so I automatically had to wait 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
To
Yes,
get
that's the
on the
killer.
agenda.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
So it's just, it just puts me further and further behind.
It's definitely a policy decision that I think this board I don't see any pushback. Mr. Ravello? Seeing none, I think we can definitely vet it out, so long as there's a process. I mean, you know, when these come up, my first response, Bonnie, how's it look? What are we doing for that budget? Where are we looking? In this case, as we all know, when you're hiring the step, you get hired at a lower level, you know, you have some makeup there, so I think it's a good suggestion. We can bring it up at the financial policy.
Yeah, if you're looking within budget neutral, or at least within budget authority of the particular department.
Sure.
And it's not a staff increase, because we make such a deal each fiscal year as to level.
That would be a very workable policy, that if Bonnie's determination was that it was budget neutral, and you had a policy that said, okay, therefore you can fill it.
Sure.
Because it's the one, because then it's the ones that are not budget neutral that are clearly a policy
issue.
You know, it's something else.
Sure.
It's different.
Sure. I was just going to say that too, Chuck.
I love stealing your thunder.
All right, that being said, any other questions? I would look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to grant the Highway Operations Manager's request under the Staff and Vacancy Review Policy to fill the full-time benefited Grade 6 position of Highway Equipment Operator/Laborer.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. All right, highway procurement, solid waste hauling contract, October 1, the new rates started at the dump, and new scheduling. I made my first Wednesday trip, because Tuesday it was busy, and it worked out perfect.
Oh, so we did this for you?
Yeah.
Oh, well done then.
Yeah.
We used to do a 3-year contract with our hauling, and then we had so many changes going on at the transfer station, we cut back to 1-year contracts, and then we would just like renew. And then when they increased the contract that you could do 5 years, we felt like we're finally in a place where we can continue the contract without any changes, so we wanted to go up to 5 years on this one.
My only question is, you know, we used to hear about, I'm sorry, members will jump in afterwards. We used to hear fuel charges. You know, cost of fuel is going down. I didn't see anything in here.
Yeah, we have a fuel adjustment.
Yeah, so when and how is that implemented?
We put in a conservative number that it's 60 miles round trip to Covanta and Haverhill. They get 4.5 miles per gallon, so they can use X number of gallons. We set the fuel of when the contract was up to bid by this, like a USA website for the New England area, gives you the fuel cost. If it changes by 5%, they can adjust their fuel up or down.
Okay, so you've got a multiplier and escalator built in there.
We're monitoring that, that's all I have. Okay. That's all I have. Board members, Mr. Knox?
It's a little bit.
A lot of trash.
And it's a little bit.
And it's a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah, the second bidder was about $140,000 more.
Big difference.
So
Mr. DeCoste?
Yeah, the one thing historically, trash companies kill you with fuel charges and maintenance fees and all these things. So as long as there's some sort of an escalator or a kicker in there that protects us to some degree, I'm good.
All right, look for a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to award a 5-year contract from October 1st, 2015 through September 30th, 2020 to Low Better Waste Management, Inc. of Woburn, Mass. for hauling, trucking of solid waste, bulky items, construction and demolition waste, plastic and tin cans from the Littleton Transfer Station for round trips to Covanta and Haverhill, the Devon's facility, and the Groton facility.
Second.
Move the second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm sorry?
thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, 8A and 8B, we have two executive sessions here. What's that?
Two sets of minutes.
Two sets of minutes. Can we come out of executive session? Do we need not come out of executive session?
You, on 8B, if you are, if you could come out and, if you reach conclusion, you could come out and
Vote back in? Yeah, so members, what are you thinking on 8B? You had a chance to...
Just give us the option. So
Okay.
And to reconvene, if we reconvene and don't need to do anything.
All right, so my only one, if the other executive session, we're not gonna come out, we're gonna do one first, that's all I'm saying, so.
Joe?
I'm confused if you go one way or the other.
You could say that you're not going to come out of executive session for 8A.
Right.
And that you are going to come out for 8B.
Well, may.
No, you have to say.
Yeah, you have to say.
Let's just come out, and if we have nothing to do, we adjourn.
Okay.
Am I missing something?
No?
If you
need to make
keep
a
the
motion.
option open, at the end, you come out and say, we move to adjourn.
Okay, so, yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it has to be written, said in the motion that we're
I got
going
that
to
piece.
Okay, so, all right, let's do the minutes first, though, so just in case we don't decide to go on. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, move that we approve the minutes from September 21st and October 5th.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. All right, so let's go with 8A. Anybody?
All right, we're going to do both of them in one motion, right? I mean, we're going to just,
We need to do two separate motions.
You can have two votes.
you want to do 2 votes then?
Yeah.
All right, so you want to
In rapid succession.
All right, so we're going to do 1 and 2 here then, right, Keith, on 8A?
In 8A, you are adopting number 1 publicly.
Yes.
All right. Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, Section 21, Subsection A, Clause 3, to convene an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. Since an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the board, and not to convene an open session thereafter. I'd like to, I know this is pretty standard, and I apologize for not bringing this up before. Litigating position of the board or the town? We do this for the town, not for the board. Yes? If you're okay, I'd rather say the town. I know it's somewhat minuscule.
As long as it
Yeah,
doesn't
either way, it's
impact
fine,
the-
I'm sure, yeah.
impact the Mass General Law, I'm fine with it.
But it's the board that gets the direct litigation.
Yeah, we do it for the town.
Not the town. We don't bring those to town meeting. Or to any of the board.
All right, it's been moved, do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Knox? Ms. Hebert? Mr. Carr, aye. Mr. Ravello? Mr. DeCoste?
Aye.
Okay, so for 8B, look for a motion.
For now, just motion 1.
Just motion 1, correct.
Okay, move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section 21A2, to go into executive session to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Fire Chief Scott Wazinski, and to convene an open session thereafter.
Second.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Hebert? Aye. Mr. Ravello?
Aye.
Mr. DeCoste? We are now in executive session.
But we will be back.
We will be back.
Even if only to
Hey, by the way, I said, he should go at the beginning of
Exclamation point. As it comes on. That would be perfect.
All right,
All right,
here we are.
so we're reconvened into executive session,
Out of.
out of executive session, and we are now going to talk about the Fire Chief Scott Wazinski's contract. Mr. Bergman, just give a brief overview of the contract, please.
Yes, first off, Chief Wazinski has been with us for 3 years. He has, we signed him up in 2012 for a 3-year contract, which is the maximum length under the statute. And as we reach the end of that initial 3-year period, it's our desire to enter into, it's our desire first to say, great job, Chief, happy to have you here, and that we want to continue having you here for another 3 years at least, since we just talked about them in units of 3 years. So we've taken we've had a conversation amongst the board that the chair and the chief and I had met earlier, and we are looking at having the board approve a new 3-year contract, which is basically the same as the one that's been in place. We've tightened up some language around sick leave and disability to reflect the current language in the personnel bylaw. We have tightened up the language in holidays so that they describe the holidays that are subject to the chief's statute. We've refined the language in the vehicle policy so it would not be used for personal purposes, so we don't expose the chief to additional taxes through the IRS. Compensation, that the chief is currently at step 5 of grade 13. He, under this contract, would go to step 6 on the coming July 1st, then step 7 the year after, and step 8 the year after that, reaching the maximum. And that would be, those step increases would be subject to satisfactory annual performance appraisals. In the event that the town implements a paramedic program, this contract provides that the fire chief may request that the grading and rating and classification of his position be reconsidered to reflect those additional job duties. So the contract term would be 3 years through 2018, and we're happy to have you here.
All right, members, any questions?
That was timely.
I would look for a motion.
Thanks for all you do, Chief. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 1080, to authorize execution of a new 3-year contract with Fire Chief Scott T. Wazinski, effective November 5th, 2015, upon terms as negotiated.
Second.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
Ms. Seaver?
Aye.
Mr. Revella?
Aye.
Mr. DeCos? Mr. Carr? Aye. Congratulations, thanks again, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief.
We've got 2 clean copies for...
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
The chair.
It's been moved and seconded, motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.